Live for your house. That was what his father always told our protagonist, meaning that he didn't want him to desire anything and to always be a shadow of his older brother. Our hero falls to the ground, and the soldiers around say they never imagined it was possible for a single person to face so many knights. A long-haired man says that's to be expected from that person's brother. Zian looks at him. The man in front of him is Boris, who shows a distorted smile. While Zian asks who sent him, Boris, with daggers in hand, wants to know if it was the Emperor when he sees him activate his power. Boris says that Mist is disgusting and that he is an assassin from the Mist group, so he will be eliminated for affiliating with heretics. Zian wishes him luck trying to get out of there alive, but Boris tells him he has already placed a 9-star barrier in that location. The protagonist knows he has to get out of there urgently and find out who caused the incident with his brother, telling Boris that he will break any barrier he has raised. Suddenly, someone says, "Stop, Zian!" Zian is startled and left speechless, remembering his father's words. Live for your house and your brother. He is the house itself. The success of the house depends on Zian's success. He can't believe it. The man behind it all, after all, was his brother. He falls to his knees, while Zian says that his brother must be wondering why he is there. The brother approaches and Zian asks what the meaning of all this is. Celestial tells him that he has done his job very well so far, but for the sake of the house and his own brother, he will free him from his sins. Zian can't understand what he did wrong, looking at his mist. Celestial says that it is disgusting and that he stopped being human a long time ago. He yells at him, telling him that he has been deceiving everyone. Zian reflects on those words and snaps what he's saying makes no sense. 3. The difficulties with the Empire's throne. 4. The subjugation of the Demon King's army. 5. The continent's unification war. He helped his brother overcome all of that and conquer everything he has. He punches the ground, saying that he dedicated the life he received to that person. However, now he wants to discard him after coming so far. After working like a dog for 20 years, Zian says that even if his body breaks, he will give everything he has right now, as long as he manages to kill him. The soldiers can't believe the amount of mana he still has. Transformed, Zian says his brother is shameful, being the only hero and trying to kill a family member. He looks at him with rage, and Zian lunges at him. He is managing to defend himself easily, while Zian says he only needs one opportune attack and throws the punch, but it hits a barrier. The fight isn't one-on-one and Boris is protecting him. He takes the opportunity to strike Zian in the abdomen. With the sword in his abdomen, he says he thought about letting him go easily, but he really showed his dark side in the end. It's truly a relief that I never trusted him, not even for a second. He pulls out the sword, kicks Zian, and leaves with the group. Fallen, Zian thinks it's a ridiculous end. It makes no sense to die like this. Suddenly, he attacks him again, telling him to die as he places the dagger on his neck, but an explosion of light runs through his body. A voice calls for the young master, and a boy wakes up sweaty in a bed. The maid asks him how long he is going to sleep, and Shan wonders if it's Emily. Looking at her, he thinks that 20 years have already passed since he met her. However, she looks the same as the day he first saw her. He recognizes the room as the one he lived in when he was younger, and he realizes he has returned to the time when he was a child. Emily tells him to stop lazing around in bed and go train, and Shan wonders what training she is talking about. Seeing that he has returned to the Duchy of House Berthe, he is sure he is in the past. Maybe it is just memories, but he remembers it perfectly. This was March 1st, 27 years ago, 1 year before he entered the academy. At the beginning of each month, there was a training match open to the public. It was an important event, even for his father. His opponent was a boy named Krans, a brother also born from another mother, yet he was the same age as him. His mother, Margaret, was the Duke's official wife, which is why her son received much more attention. Xian, being the son of a non-official wife, was humiliated that day. That was when his father told him to do nothing and give up. Emily asks why he does not give up, while Xian now says he is just going to win quickly. However, he hesitates when he realizes that a simple ***, the thin sword is extremely heavy for this body. Now, he is sure it is not a dream or a memory. However, he had never heard of magic like this, and he wonders if he really returned to the past. Krans says it is incredible that he has not run away, and when Zian looks at his father, he says to begin. His brother lunges, asking where he is looking, and he is clearly confident it will be easy. But Zian wonders why he is so slow. One step to the side, and his brother cuts through the air. He calls him a coward and lunges to attack again. However, he gets a blow to the hand that forces him to drop the sword, a kick to the shin, and he falls to the ground, agonizing in pain. The mother calls out to the boy, while the father seems interested, watching Krans on the ground. Zian knows that if he places the blade on his neck, it will all be over. But he remembers that in the past, that boy tormented him, and the bullying continued even at the academy. So now he has to finish him, so that he never thinks of doing something like that again. In this second life he has been given, he will live for himself. The fight ended with Krans completely defeated. The Duke postponed his plans because he wanted to talk to Zian. He even assigned one of the knights who worked for him to watch him. In the hallway, he sees Krans' mother. He is sure she just came back from the infirmary. With a mischievous smile, Zian asks if her son is all right, Duchess. She says he is a scoundrel for saying that after what he did to his brother. 2, Zian ignores her, saying that it is normal for that to happen in a training match. 3, the Duchess says that is why you should not talk to an illegitimate son. 4, filthy mother, filthy son, and he should have stayed picking up trash in the streets. 5, Zian looks at her thinking she crossed the line, and wonders if he should kill her, but he smiles, remembering that he knows how to make her suffer little by little, and tells her that he will enter the same academy as Krans. And she asks what he means by that. He wants to know if she is not worried about her son and his graduation. She frowns and goes to slap him, asking how he dares to say something like that. However, the guard protects Zian and apologizes to her, but the Duke calls for the boy, so they can't stay there any longer. Zian looks at the Duchess and says they are leaving. She frowns but doesn't have much to say, and Zian did that because he knows the Duke's order is absolute. And the knight who was there was ordered to protect him. In the room, his father tells him to come in. Zian enters and introduces himself while thinking that the last time he met that man like this was 15 years ago. Duke Guayache tells him to take a seat. People call him the protector of the continent, the first one, the one who with his magical power and military strategies stopped the attack of the demons. Even though an entire army of the Demon King wanted to kill him, the only thing he desired was peace for that continent. But that was just how Zian's memories were of someone who dedicated his entire life to serving the people and being an admirable man. The first thing Guayache says is that he noticed he saw the sword and dodged it. Zian is confused, but Guayache says that when Concha attacked, Zian easily saw the sword's trajectory and moved to the side to dodge, and asks when he learned that type of swordsmanship. Zian is impressed by how observant he is and says he learned on his own. 4, Guayache says that as far as he knows, Zian had no interest in swordsmanship or was hiding his skills. 5, Zian explains that he didn't want to stand out too much, while Guayache says it's incredible that he beat Krans even while acting like that. 6, however, he stops and then asks why he hit his brother that way at the end. 7, Zian thinks, is he recognizing me as someone strong? So he says he wanted to prove something. Guayache asks what our hero wants to prove. He says that even though he's his brother, he wanted to prove that he's better than Krans. The father starts to laugh and says that a response as direct and clear as that is incredible. He hopes that Zian will one day become a strong ally for Cell. The name Cell scares our protagonist, who wonders why he would want to be an ally of that man in the end. His father's obsession with Cell hasn't changed at all. He clenches his fists without saying anything. Guayache mentions that there is no reward ceremony, but he can ask for something. Zian's plan is very obvious. He wants to ruin everything Cell plans to do. So he tells his father he wants something special. The maid asks if he really wants to go to the battlefront. He says yes and that he's sure, but she wants to know if he's crazy because he has no idea how terrifying that place is. It's full of demons, monsters, and creatures. In the west of the Veles Empire, there's a place known as the continent's front line, a battlefield where an endless war against the demon army has been going on for 100 years. For that reason, his father, who was hesitant at first, set a condition: he would have to be sufficiently qualified to go to that place. Although Xian didn't understand exactly what he meant by that, however, one thing is certain: he just needs to get as strong and as fast as possible. Fortunately, he still has all the battle knowledge from before the regression, and he can feel a bit of the demonic power inside him, so he just needs to train and eventually he'll be able to use it. Suddenly, the door opens and someone shouts his name. With her hand on her hip, he recognizes his older sister. "Welcome!" She grabs him by the collar of his shirt, while the maid asks where he was. Ellis, for her part, asks Zian if he's crazy. She found out that he asked their father to go to the battlefront while Xian begs her to let him go. Ellis drops him to the floor and tells him he's getting a big head just for beating Krans, yelling in his face for him to go to the roof right now, outside the castle. The two of them meet on a bridge. Ellis says it will start when he touches the sword, and after that, he just has to hold out for 3 minutes, and she will let him go to the battlefront. 14. Xian wants to know if they really have to do this, but Ellis ignores him and says she has a question. Is he planning to succeed the family? Xian is baffled, but he has no interest in that. 1. Before he can answer anything, she tells him to unsheath his sword. 2. Meanwhile, Xian thinks that he has barely returned and already has to fight 2 times. 3. Without a word, she attacks him the moment he touches the sword. 4. Xian is frightened, not understanding how he managed to block Ellis's strike. She is in disbelief that he managed to block her, while Xian is shocked that she's really attacking him with everything, despite him being her brother 7 years younger. Ellis retreats with great grace and elegance, thinking it's impossible that he blocked her long sword with that thin blade of his. Biting her lip in frustration, she says it seems he is better than she thought. Xian realizes that he is in trouble now. She moves forward with a series of cuts that are hard for him to dodge. Then she leaps to prepare a vertical strike. Xian manages to defend his shoulder, but Ellis's blade slides down his own. Aiming straight for his neck, he flinches. Xian realizes he made a stupid mistake and twists his arm, and they both back away. Standing on a pillar, he thinks that it would have been dangerous if he hadn't moved his sword. He would have killed her. Now, the assassination techniques he learned are all for instant kills. He doesn't know how to fight without killing someone. However, she is determined to continue. For 3 minutes, it's going to be dangerous for her. Maybe he could put some mana into his blade, but he's already running out of energy. Suddenly, Ellis begins to recite an incantation, asking for the earth and wind to become her sword. Xian immediately recognizes it as 6-star magic. Ellis's blade begins to glow with the activation of the water blade. Xian is now crying. Does she really want to kill me? This isn't a test. She keeps repeating to herself that she cannot lose no matter what. Xian's problem, cornered on the rampart, is that if he reflects her attack, he might end up killing her or throwing her off. If that's the case, he jumps in her direction. Ellis raises her sword and unleashes a beam of light. Xian tells himself to stop hesitating and just do it. As he prepares to make the cut, just as the impact is about to happen, a knight gets between the two of them, saying that's enough. The knight blocks Ellis's attack with his sword and grabs Xian by the collar. The impact echoes throughout the castle, and the knight looks at Ellis, telling her that she went too far against the young master. Xian is relieved. He had been waiting for that man to appear, but he took too long. Seeing the sword, Ellis seems to snap out of it, then runs and hugs Xian, apologizing and saying that she lost control. She cries on his shoulder, saying that the last thing she wanted was for him to go to the battlefront because she would be too worried. Being hugged by her, Xian thinks that she really is the anonymous one, someone who studied at one of the top academies. And she was one of the most skilled swordswomen, plus she had a beautiful face and was recognized as the daughter of God. Everyone thought she would be the next protector of the continent. Alongside Axel, however, shortly after joining the Knights of the Light, she met a miserable end. He hugs her and says he missed her, and that this time he will protect her. He asks the knight why he's there if he's the protector of the Duke who left. The knight replies that he is there obeying the Duke's orders to protect the young master. Xian thinks that he had felt that man's presence ever since he left the office, which is why he was angry that he didn't show up sooner, fainting. He doesn't understand why his father ordered him to be protected covertly. He loses consciousness on Ellis's shoulder, who smiles, thinking he's really still just a kid. The next day, she returned to the academy, and he went back to training to prepare to meet his father. All he could do was push his body to the limit to increase his stamina, but the poor guy is exhausted. 10 push-ups is the most he can do. Emily, remembering his muscular version, thinks he'll need drastic measures. Suddenly, Emily enters the room and says that Ellis sent him something, but she comments that it smells horrible and asks, "What is that?" After the attack from Ellis, Zian asked for hellhound blood as an apology gift for the terrible smell and disgusting appearance. Everyone thinks it's poison, but it actually has the power to permanently increase the stamina of whoever drinks it. Pinching her nose, Emily asks if he's really going to drink that, and he says yes. Taking a big gulp, he comments that he's the only person capable of eating even Emily's food, so this is nothing. Remembering the purple mushroom soup she made, which was much worse, he slams the bowl on the table and says it was delicious. Exhaling an aura, he calls for Emily, who wants to know what's wrong. He looks at her with red eyes and says he's going out for a walk because he wants to see the effect of the potion. So he leaves the castle and stands to one side. He comments that he had wanted to come here for a long time. This was the place he went to when he wanted to be alone. One day, a revelation from the god of light came to his brother Axel about an ancient temple that was in that place, and Zian was skeptical about it, touching the ground. He says that no one knows about the revelation yet. The ground breaks and a red mist starts to come out. Meanwhile, Zian comments that what he's about to do is something Axel would never imagine. Looking at the underground entrance, Zian wonders if it's time to go in. The boy, walking inside, says that everything looks different than before. It's the place that served the god of light until it was completely devastated. That happened during the Holy War 300 years ago. Zian comments that a place like this is almost unbelievable. On the altar, he sees a shining sword and recognizes it as the master of that temple. In the year 999, humans finally managed to drive the demons out of the Veles Empire. It was then that they discovered artifacts known as the Treasures of God. One of those artifacts was the sacred sword of Ondar, which led the humans in the war against the demons, the same sword that he used to kill him in that tragic end. Looking at the sword, he imagines it might be related to his regression. He touches it with excitement, but he lowers his head, saying he knew nothing would happen. Then he kicks it in disgust and leaves with Zian saying that sword made him feel like trash. Shadows appear beneath the light, and Zian says he's found what he was looking for, looking at the ground. He comments that anyone would think it's the sword's shadow, however, it's not just a shadow. Zian touches the ground, saying that where there is light, there is shadow. And a set of stairs leading to a door in the darkness appears. Zian cautiously opens the door. When he looks toward the altar, he finally finds what he was looking for, the demonic blade Chiron. He wields the dagger, which has a crystal embedded in it, and then speaks to the blade, telling it that it can wake up now. He keeps slashing in all directions, getting a bit impatient seeing that it's apparently still asleep. However, he is fascinated. Slashing with the blade he used his entire life is truly satisfying. Suddenly, a shadow begins to emerge from the ground, saying he's a very brave boy. She asks Zian if he knows what it means to take that dagger. 1, he replies that it means it's his now. 2, the shadow continues to grow, saying she can't believe he actually awakened a demonic blade. 3, with a gruesome smile, she claims it's too late, lunging at him and screaming that his body now belongs to her. However, Zian grabs her by the neck, leaving her confused. A face appears in the shadows, and Zian says there wasn't much he could do back then. The blade asks how he can touch her, and he replies that he already said it. She's his now. With sharp pink nails, she launches a slash at him, but he manages to dodge it by stepping back. The blade takes the opportunity to create some distance, and well, this is the strongest weapon I've ever seen. In a protagonist's hands, she's truly a menace to society. She asks who he is, seeing the shadow emerge from his body. She wants to know if he is the heir, or at least wants to understand. Why he has the heir's energy. He replies that yes, he is the heir. Now that he is her master, it would be best if she just stayed quiet and bowed her head. Chiron, filled with rage, says he's nothing but a brat and attacks him, yelling that she won't accept it. As he defends himself, Xian knows the blade's objective is to take over the user's body, so he'll have no other choice. She's about to strike him when he wonders if he should hold back or not. With a smile, he activates his control over the demonic blade. Karen is slammed to the ground, not understanding what happened. Zian warns her that he'll only say it one more time and that she'd better accept while he's being nice. As she's being suppressed, Chiron wants to know how he's using that ability. Xian activates the control again, smashing her head into the ground before she can say anything. He activates it about 3 more times. Seeing her buried like that, he asks if she gets it now. And she replies that she now recognizes him as her master. He's about to use the power one more time when she calls him Lord. With that, Zian has accomplished his goal there and wonders if he should head back before he's missed. Chiron, now in his hands, says she's eager to feel the fresh air outside and is curious, wanting to know his name, which he tells her. After hearing his name, the blade asks if he was really chosen as the heir. Qian replies that yes, but it was in his past life. Chiron is confused about the whole past life thing, and he explains that he has already died once. She is even more bewildered, thinking he's crazy. When he approaches the sword, she says that it's asleep, and our protagonist announces that its owner will appear in 20 years. Chiron wants to know how he knows that, while he has already unsheathed the blade. Without hesitation, he cuts the handle. She seems curious as to why. Zian says he has no idea, but that it will be an interesting future. One morning, a cart departed from the Verte castle. The promised day for Xian had arrived very quickly. He presents himself before his father, who asks him one more time, is he really determined to go to the battlefront? Zian replies yes, that his heart is already there. Then his father orders the knight to release the beast, and the knight takes out a scroll. Xian wonders if he will use summoning magic. The scroll opens, glowing with a red pentagram, and a creature with a flaming back begins to appear. Zian recognizes it as a hellhound, and upon seeing it, it's clear to him that his father and the knights have prepared this test very well for him. Everyone has their hands ready to draw their swords, and Zian notices that they are all being very cautious with their lives. The father warns that everything comes with responsibility, and that Xian must prove his determination by passing this test. Upon hearing the word test, the knight shows doubt. He was confused when Xian asked to train with him. Our protagonist said he had 3 days until the test and needed to prepare as best he could, so he asked for help from the knight to practice combat techniques. The knight replied that if he wanted to train, he should ask Kruncho, someone his own age. Zian, playing naive, commented that he didn't know why, but that Grant always ran away whenever he saw him. In an awkward situation, the knight realizes he's caught in a bind, and Zian smiles as the knight finally agrees to grant his wish. However, he warns him that he won't draw his sword from its sheath and will only defend himself. Xian thanks him and asks for one last thing, not to inform his father about anything that happens there and that this is an order. Jolkin shows hesitation, not understanding why he asked. Suddenly, Qian lunges at him, and Jolkin manages to defend against the first attack, but is left in disbelief at the strength of a 10-year-old boy. He realizes that Xian's movements are extremely fast. Xian disappears from his sight, and Jolkin wonders where the boy is. He senses something and turns around just in time to block the attack. Zian continues to strike relentlessly, and after a few attacks, Zian stops saying that unfortunately he can't beat him yet. However, he thanks Jolkin for his great help. Almost exhausted, Jolkin tells him that he also did a great job, although he can't believe that this skinny kid is so strong. If what he felt that day is correct, the current young master will be able to overcome any test they put before him. The Hellhound is in front of Zian and attacks. Zian seems calm as he watches the monster approach to bite him. A slash cuts through the Hellhound's eye, which falls to the ground, looking back. Zian thinks that with his current strength, he must finish this as quickly as possible. The Hellhound gets up and Zian knows he must finish it with this attack. He prepares himself, and suddenly, the slash has already passed through the Hellhound's head, finishing it off with a throw of his blade from midair. The knights present are all astonished. while his father smiles, seeing the corpse on the ground. Zian comments that it's a waste to have let so much blood go to waste. However, he knows that if he starts drinking it, they will think he's crazy. So he decides to let it go. Guayashe approaches and congratulates him, saying that was amazing, and tells him that in that case they will meet again on the front lines. Zian thanks his father while Chiron calls out to him, asking if it's a kitchen knife. Our protagonist replies that it's not, it's a demonic blade. Then Chiron wants to know why she isn't being used, since she can only recover her power by consuming blood. Addressing him, she begs to be given a little taste, but Zian tells her not to worry. He'll use her as much as she wants on the northern battlefield. Ogres are invading. The sound of bells serves as a warning, and Guayashe orders them to leave no one alive. The soldiers raise their swords and activate the Prison of Salvation. A huge, shining cross appears on the battlefield. A magic circle appears under the feet of all the ogres. From the circle, ropes of light emerge and immobilize them. Guayashe orders everyone to attack. With the ogres trapped, the soldiers seem to defeat them with ease. One of the ogres screams as a soldier approaches, firmly gripping his sword, preparing to strike. With a single blow, he cuts off the monster's head. Nearby, Zian and Emily watch the battle, and she is terrified. She asks him why he brought her to a place like this. Zian thinks that he strangely feels nostalgic for this place. His father asks him what he thinks about being on the front lines, and Zian replies that he's a little nervous. His father warns him that he can go back at any time, but that he could die in this place, so he shouldn't let his guard down. Zian smiles, saying he'll keep that in mind. On the front lines, death is common, and 3 or 4 battles happen every day. Strategically, the knights try to stop the advance of the demonic lines. The tent in which Zian is staying is the farthest from everything and the safest. The problem is that, since he's being watched, he can't find an opportunity to feed Chiron. While he wonders if he'll have to wait until night, he asks Emily what she's doing under the blankets. She, in despair, says that the Duke warned they could die at any moment. Zian replies that in that case, she should pack her things. Emily shouts that it's impossible, she can't leave him alone, it's full of demonic monsters, and if she leaves, who will take care of him? She suddenly leaves the tent, saying she's going to get something to eat, while Zian wants to ask her about the cloak he requested, but she just ignores him. Zian, annoyed, thinks that damn girl never obeys him. A while later, he puts a dummy in his bed, thinking that maybe it'll be enough. When Emily asks if he's really going to exercise in a place like this, she comments that he's very diligent and that if the Duke finds out, he'll be proud. Zian ignores her and says he's going out and that she can just stay and sleep peacefully. He looks back and warns her to say he's asleep if anyone asks. At that moment, they need the maximum number of soldiers on the front line, so only now can he get out freely. He activates a skill that allows him to slip through the mists. He moves towards a dangerous region where he finds a group of hellhounds. However, he's excited because this is the perfect place to test out Chiron. Upon being summoned, Chiron smells the scent of blood and says she can't take it anymore, she needs to cut something. The hellhounds leap towards him. Zian tells her to feed as much as she wants. With that, he begins to kill the creatures, activating a skill called Raging Mist Tempest. After finishing off the hellhounds, he extracts blood from their heads and drinks it. With a crazed expression, he comments that this is exactly what he needed. While Karen is excited, he tells her they'll keep hunting, and Karen replies that those creatures are too weak. Zian assures her not to worry, since the night is young and there are plenty of monsters. Chiron says she's excited. A carriage travels through a mountain. Inside, a white-haired girl is traveling. Someone inside warns her that this place is very dangerous and they should turn back. However, the girl says not to treat her like a child. She is a princess of the empire, and it is her duty to assist the family. She warns that if the woman says anything else, she will unleash her anger on her. The girl mentions that the young Master Birdie is also on the front lines and is the same age as her. She asks if the Duke had the courage to bring the younger boy. The companion replies that no, it was the young man himself who volunteered. Since they are the same age, they could be friends, but the princess says she's not interested and is going to sleep. Her friend replies that it's okay. Then the princess asks for the young man's name. The attendant replies that his name is Zian Bertie. Under the moonlight, the princess reflects on that name. Meanwhile, harpies are being cut down. Guayache gives the order to check on the wounded on the battlefield. Dozens of harpies and griffins lie dead, and as they prepare to return to base, Guayache observes, and from the body of a harpy, someone pulls out a sword. It's Zian, who participated in the combat. Guayache asks him if he is adapting well to the front lines. Qian replies that yes, he is learning many things every day, and Guayache mentions that he thought he would want to go back home. However, he's been there for a while now and he is very proud. Those words leave Zian in disbelief. His father leaves, saying he has something to discuss with him. The next morning, Zian nods, thinking that it's the first time he's seen his father with a proud expression. That same night, Zian goes out to hunt once more. What he finds is a death Minoka, which normally hides deep in the valleys. Chiron comments that he looks very tired and suggests he let her take control of the body, but Zian replies that she's being too obvious. Chiron insists, saying that the Minoka's flesh regenerates much faster than he can strike. Even though he doesn't want to accept it, Zian knows it's true. He has been in this place for over a month, drinking the blood of countless demonic creatures. So why hasn't he achieved it yet? The Minoka attacks him again, and he says he has no choice, he tells Chiron, that he'll follow her rules for a while, which makes her happy. She comments that it's time to go crazy. Qian activates the 9th assassination technique, the manifestation of the demonic blade. The creature is in agony, and our hero declares that he will cut it to pieces. Under the moonlight, he activates the skill 8 floating petals and pierces the Minoka with multiple cuts from top to bottom. The Minoka's mouth explodes, and Zian looks completely demonic. Meanwhile, a knight touches the blood of a hellhound and says it hasn't been dead for long. It's Julkin and Guayache who are examining the area. Guayache comments that it looks like the work of the demon tribe, however. Upon observing the cuts on the body, he mentions that they look familiar. Could it be déjà vu? Julkin appears from behind a rock and says there's something he must see. Guayache asks what it is. As Julkin raises the torch, they see the death Minoka split in half, which leaves Guayache stunned. He says he can't believe that organization is behind this. The next day, the manifestation of the demonic blade gives Shan's body over to Chiron, allowing her to use all her power. However, if he gets distracted, his mind is also completely consumed. The next day, Shan wakes up saying he's crazy for using that power just to kill a simple demonic beast. He gets out of bed, commenting that he was lucky to have drunk so much blood, otherwise his body would have collapsed. Suddenly, Chiron comments that she's figured something out. He looks like a 10-year-old boy, but he doesn't talk or act like one. Besides, it's his first time using her, but he seems way too familiar with her. He even knew the entire geography of the valley, and fought as if he had mastered the mist technique for over 30 years. Chiron remembers that he mentioned having died once, and now she's sure he's a regressor, right? Zian says that he had already explained it clearly, but she didn't get it. Karen, confused, yells that she can't understand something so serious if he explains it so simply. Zian says that explaining is boring. She watches him fight and comments that it couldn't have been easy to defeat him, a demonic blade wielder. He surely lost against the wielder of Durandal, which means he was either defeated in a duel or he was betrayed. Remembering the monster's expression before the holy sword, Chiron is sure he was betrayed. She tells him that if he has returned for revenge, he must remember something. If she sees him being lazy or weak for even a second, she'll devour him on the spot. Sheen hits her and orders her to shut up because he's the master. Karen falls to the ground, battered, while he smiles, thinking that she has the exact same personality as before. Zian leaves the tent, Emily calls out to him, and he asks what happened. Scared, she informs him that they found the body of a demonic beast at the entrance to the valley. Zian hesitates, fearing they might have found the death Minoka. Emily adds that it's been a long time since they found such a high-level beast near the borders. Xian asks her if there's anything else she needs to say. Emily, nervous, looks at him as he asks again, Did anyone say anything about me? Are there any rumors? Suddenly, a knight appears behind him, calling his name. It's Jolkin, who informs him that the Duke wants to speak with him. Zian knows he's in trouble because the night before, while he was hunting, his father's group showed up. He had to abandon the ghouls' bodies without being able to clean anything up. The last thing he wanted was to draw attention before entering the academy. He arrives at his father's tent, sure that he already knows everything. His father greets him, while Xian feels uncomfortable about what he's going to say. Guayache orders him to sit, and Xian frowns, wondering how he'll get out of this situation. His father says he'll be direct and asks him what he was doing last night. Sweating, Xian lies, saying he went to bed early. Guayache seems to believe him for a moment, but finds it strange that the cuts on the gel June are so similar to those from his blade. Is he overthinking it? Xian asks if there is a problem. While Guayache finds it incredible that a young man did something like that, Xian calls his father again, who asks him if he heard about what happened last night. Guayache mentions that they still need to investigate, but it seems to be related to the Mist organization. Father Xian, somewhat uncertain, asks, "The Mist?" The father explains that it's an organization that has existed since ancient times and whose objective is unknown. However, they have massacred countless nobles under the excuse of purification. They suddenly disappeared. The last time they were seen was 300 years ago. But the same mist was present at the Manoka of Death. That power residue is only left by those who worship the god of mist. According to Guayache, whoever killed the Manoka belongs to that organization. Xian is impressed that his father managed to track down an organization that disappeared 300 years ago with just that. Guayache comments that he doesn't know why they disappeared, but he warns him to be cautious, as he will report this to the Empire. Our protagonist feels relieved, thinking he'll manage to escape suspicion. Meanwhile, Guayache reflects that it makes no sense to connect such a young boy to all of this and ends the conversation. Then he asks Zian if he has heard about the visit they will receive today. Zian replies that he heard someone from the royal family was coming. Guayache approaches and confirms it, but mentions that he wants to ask him a small favor. Sweating, Qian is curious about that favor. A knight announces the arrival of His Majesty. Guayache and everyone on the battlefield bows to welcome the Emperor. The Emperor, who looks like a pale vampire, greets Guayache. He approaches and tells him they are old friends, so he doesn't need to be formal. Then he asks if the boy by his side is his son. Zian introduces himself as the youngest of House Verde. The Emperor comments that it's incredible to see Guayache's son on the front lines. Truly, his children are extraordinary. The favor that Guayache asked Xian was simply to introduce himself as his son. In his past life, Xian always remained hidden and no one knew of his existence. The Emperor says it's the perfect time to introduce someone else. A Shu steps down from the carriage and the person introduces herself as Irene Sevelrus, the 5th princess of the Empire. Zian remembers that she was known as the Unfortunate Princess. One of the favors that Guayache asked was for Zian to escort the girl. Zian was confused, as he wasn't particularly strong and wanted to know why his father asked for that. Guayas explained that he just wanted Xian to keep her company, since they both would be entering the same academy and were the same age. Zian remembers seeing her at the academy in his past life, as he changed classes several times. Then, Guayache told him that it's always good to know someone from the royal family, and, although she won't be staying for long, it's a good opportunity. Our protagonist thought that he wasn't particularly interested, but he understood his father's intentions. He wanted Xian to have a relationship with her similar to the one Guayache has with the Emperor. However, Xian sighs and thinks that his father chose the wrong person, since that girl would not be useful for what he wants, although he cannot reveal the reason, as only he knows the future. Zian decides that for now he will follow orders. As they walked with the troops, Eren asks why the lake is red. 5. Zian explains that is the lake of blood, and it has no special reason for being that color. Wounded creatures throw themselves into the lake to recover mana, and that is why it has that hue. 6. Eren asks why there are so many monster remains, and Zian tells her that is basically why. Then Eren asks what is at the end of the lake. Zian replies that the demon realm is there, and she asks if there is a demon king there. Suddenly, they see a flash of light. A yellow smoke shoots across the sky, and Eren asks what it is. Zian replies that a golden light means the entry of demonic creatures. Scared, she asks if they have already arrived. Meanwhile, Guayache gives the order to protect His Majesty and head to the third post. The Emperor comments that he is disappointed, and Guayas asks what he means. The Emperor, drawing his sword, says he is not there just for a visit, but because he was bored and missed battle. Guayase lowers his head and says he understands. The Emperor informs his group that they will help the eradication team eliminate the creatures. Eren, confused, asks if he is really going to fight the creatures. He replies yes, that even though he is at the rear, he always fights on the front line. With determination, Eren says she wants to go with him. Zian questions Eren about what she is doing. While she insists that they are the same age, so there is no problem, however, Zian warns her that the battlefield is not an amusement park. She keeps insisting, saying that it does not matter, that she wants to go. Zian then calls for Jolkin, who appears behind her and says he will take her to the safest area possible. Eren turns around and Jolkin tells her, "Come with me, princess," shouting. Eren tells Zian he is insolent for treating a princess of the Empire that way. Getting closer, Zian warns her that the time she is wasting there could cause the deaths of many people on the front line. He asks if she will take responsibility for that. Eren starts to cry, showing that she is still just a child after all. Zian turns around and tells her to leave at once and stop behaving like a spoiled brat. The three of them remain silent, without saying a word. On the battlefield, the soldiers are being absorbed by what appear to be demonic slugs. Guayache raises his sword, orders them to get back into formation, and points towards the creatures and tells them to protect His Majesty and eliminate all those beasts. With a war cry, the soldiers charge into combat. Dion Severos had two wives, one named Anna, who had already died, and another known as Cassandra, the current ruler of the Empire. The first wife had two children, and the second one did as well. However, the fifth princess was born to a peasant woman, so everyone looked down on her. Despite that, she never submitted to anyone. As a descendant of the imperial family, Karen fulfilled all of her obligations and studied more than anyone else, however, many were against her. On false accusations, Karen was expelled from the imperial palace and sent to an isolated place. That's why she received the title of the Unfortunate Princess. Chiron asks Zian if that wasn't what he heard from his father in his past life. Zian comments that when it comes to politics and kingdoms, things are usually like that, while the electric slugs are cut down on the battlefield. Qian, watching the explosions from afar, acknowledges that the Emperor is truly incredible. The Emperor stabs his sword into the ground and activates a holy ray, easily defeating all the slugs around him. 2. Qian had heard that the Emperor's magic reaches 8 stars. 3. If he hadn't been an emperor, he would have been the president of the Magic Council. 4. Obviously, those medium-sized creatures are nothing to him. Sometime later, Guayache and the Emperor are drinking together, reminiscing about the old days. 5. The Emperor comments on the current state of the Empire. In recent years, many nobles have been assassinated, which has increased tension. Guayas mentions that there is probably some connection between the events. The Emperor reveals that all the murdered nobles were considered corrupt officials and that in all the crimes a black mist has been found. Does Guayache know anything about that? 1. Guayache replies that apparently the followers of the Black Mist have resumed their activities, as he also found something similar near the base. The Emperor comments that might be the case, but they need to investigate further. 2. He even mentions that he'd like to thank those guys for getting rid of that trash, although it's causing a lot of tension in the Empire. There was something that particularly caught his attention. One of the nobles claimed that the 5th princess was involved in those incidents. Guayache asks if there are people trying to connect her to it. The Emperor admits it makes no sense to blame a little girl and asks Guayache that in case he dies, to take care of his daughter. Guayache swears an oath to that promise, and the Emperor thanks him. That night, while it was raining in the tents, Emily asks Zian if he really did that. Zian ignores her and says he's going out. Emily insists, wanting to know if he really said those things to the princess. She warns him that if he keeps this up, he'll never get married and will live a lonely life. Zian tells Emily not to worry about it, that he's going to train, and she asks if he's really going out in this rain. He tells her not to worry and to go to sleep, but Eren is already there. Emily is startled and asks who it is. Erin lowers her hood and asks if Zian is going somewhere. However, if he's not busy, she wants to talk about something. Seeing the princess, Emily's eyes sparkle with excitement. Erin asks how long they've been there, and Zian replies for more than 1 month. However, he wants to know the reason for her visit. She, somewhat hesitant, says nothing, and they both ask Emily to leave them alone. Emily, with a mischievous smile, leaves, telling them to make good use of the tent. Shan knows he's 40 years old and is not at all interested in her. Erin apologizes for what happened that morning. Shan, uncomfortable, admits he was out of line too, and she laughs, saying she would have done the same. She says she knows he is recognized by those around him, unlike her. Shan never imagined she had that kind of personality. She says she knows he's going to the academy and wants to be his friend. However, Zian interrupts her, apologizes, and says that, unfortunately, he can't help her. If she's there trying to get close to him, she'd better leave. She lowers her head, saying she only mentioned that so they could get closer, but that he's so cruel. Does he think she's just a princess by title? Zian says nothing. Crying, she says that she understands now. From his perspective, he has nothing to gain by getting close to her. And she apologizes for wasting his time. Maybe she made a mistake thinking they could have a conversation. It's just that he's completely different from the Lord of Sel. Hearing that name startles Zian. He turns and grabs her arm. But she orders him to let her go and asks why he's acting like this. Zian asks her how she knows about his older brother. She says she met him when he visited the academy last year and that he told her to keep being that strong princess. Knowing his brother's nature all too well, he knows it makes no sense for him to be giving her advice. That means his manipulation had already started back then, the plan to take down Princess Arin. Zian then says he'll give her a piece of advice. Suddenly, the tent starts to shake. Emily bursts in and tells the two of them to run. However, a pillar is already about to crush them. The explosion happens and Emily is thrown out of the tent. From a distance, everyone sees an ogre, a giant one, and they recognize that's the young master's tent. Emily is desperate, crying for the two of them as the ogre raises its club. The Emperor. The Emperor asks what he means by that. A knight reports that the tent where Princess Arin was has been attacked by a high-level creature. He then orders all the troops from the battlefront to be brought over. Meanwhile, he wants to know who she was meeting in such a dangerous place. The giant ogre continues to destroy the entire rear of the base. Hiding there, Shan can't believe there's an ogre in this area, a type of creature that only appears in the depths of the valley. He wonders if maybe it's his fault when Emily calls out to him. She's crying and says she thought he was dead. 2, remembering the moment of impact, he managed to grab Arin and deflect the blow. Obviously, someone who rose through the Demon King's army wasn't gonna die to an ogre. 3, Aram asks if the knights will be okay, and Emily tells her everything is fine, that they are very strong. But she cries, saying that if she hadn't been there, this wouldn't have happened, that it's all her fault. The knights say it's all right, that their duty is to protect them. Smiling, one of them says she can trust that they will give their lives. However, Shin yells at him to run as an ogre's hand comes from behind him. The poor guy is crushed and immediately spits up blood. The giant ogre picks him up. While he's with the two of them, Zian tells the princess to get on his back, and the ogre seems to pick up on a scent. He realizes that, just as he thought, these monsters are here for him. He's about to tell Emily to take the princess and run. But before he can finish, she has already grabbed her and taken off running. The poor guy thinks to himself that she's really fast when it comes to escaping. The ogre comes to crush him, but he can't use his demonic sword, or else people will get suspicious. He's curious why these creatures are hunting him and what scent it's picking up. Kieran tells him that he has been drinking the blood of many demonic creatures, and now, to other monsters, he gives off a terrible scent that attracts them. Shian gets angry. That damn woman knew and didn't say a thing. She smiles, asking if he forgot that the only thing she wants is his body. He grabs and squeezes her, turning her into the dagger, asking what she's doing. Shian realizes he has no other choice. He'll have to go all out against that monster. He lunges forward, saying he doesn't care, and the ogre throws a punch. With one move, he tears off the monster's arm, appears behind its neck, and cuts it too. The guy's got style. And with 2 cuts, the monster is dead on the ground. He says that now all that's left is to kill the onlookers. In front of him are a bunch of creatures that make Kieran say that she's very excited for this festival. However, she gets a scare when a demonic dragon appears. The dragon roars towards the heavens, and Kieran tells him not to be afraid, that it's still just a little pup. Zian immediately activates the demonic sword manifestation, pointing the dagger and saying he needs to devour it. Meanwhile, the army is fighting the ogres that invaded the base. The Emperor and Guayachi have just killed the last one. He asks if there's any trace of the princess. Guayachi apologizes, saying she was in his son's tent, and the Emperor says he must be worried about his son. He replies no, that there's no need to worry about that creature, that the important thing is the princess. The Emperor is surprised. Geez, that father is cruel! Suddenly, someone announces that they found the princess, Erin, and she arrives to speak with her father. He asks if she's hurt, and she says no, but that they must hurry to save him. Young Master Zian is in danger because of her. He tells her to calm down and explain properly. Guayas asks Emily if she is Zian's maid, and she confirms it. He then tells her to explain what happened at once. Trembling, Emily explains that Zian drew the creature's attention so the princess could escape. Guayachi says nothing. One of the knights says he remembers the location, and if they are given the order, they can go rescue him. The Emperor shouts at Guayachi, demanding to know why he isn't giving the order for them to go now. But Guayachi says they will not go. The Emperor and Erin are shocked, asking what he's saying. Guayachi says that Her Highness's safety is the priority. If this place falls, the demonic beasts will invade the entire empire. First, they need to rebuild the base, because that is the way to prevent further losses. Emily then asks what they will do about the young master. Guayachi says that the boy has already fulfilled his duty by evacuating the princess, and that's how things work in House Verde. The Emperor and Erin watch as he says this. She thinks that, once again, it's all her fault. Suddenly, they hear a roar in the skies. When Erin looks up, she sees the dragon passing by. However, she is in disbelief when she sees our boy clinging to the dragon's tail and being carried away. In this world, dragons are the creatures closest to the gods, in addition to being considered the most evolved living beings. Normally, it's an honor to meet such a noble creature. So why is it flying so close to these people? Arin shouts for him, and the Emperor asks Guayachi what his son is doing up there. Guayachi is motionless, and the Emperor keeps asking why he's not doing anything. Meanwhile, up there, Zian doesn't know what to do. He just wanted to drink a little blood, but now things have gotten complicated. As soon as the dragon appeared, he challenged it. He saw a bunch of weak monsters attack it, and he told those flies. Told them to go first, use the Raging Mist skill, and cut off the entire battlefield. He approached the dragon and realized it wasn't really an adult yet, but the dragon prepared an attack, and the boy felt scared. The explosion went off and a beam cut across the battlefield, but he managed to dodge and, right next to the dragon's head, he told it that it was just a baby, so how did it have the nerve to spit at him right after they met? He unleashed a slash that hit it directly in the eye, leaving him suspended in the air, and the dragon took the chance to attack him head-on. Just as he was about to be pierced, Zian gave a slight smirk and activated the mist sword using the 8 floating petals. Floating, slashing the dragon from multiple directions. The creature fell and shattered the ground, and he felt that it was truly impossible to kill a dragon. His shoulders were already exhausted, but now that it was on the ground, it was time for the final blow. The dragon flapped its wings to create distance. Shen knew it was going to use the beam again. However, when he looked, the dragon was fleeing, scared to death, escaping by flapping its wings. Shen jumped towards it, saying, "You won't escape! You damn thing!" And that's how he ended up hanging from the creature. The problem is that when he takes a look down, everyone is watching him. So how is he going to explain this? Here, Kieran asks him why he's acting like a statue, and he replies, "Can't you see all those people down there?" Kieran was furious, saying that he would have to use her now, since he had summoned her, but Zian replies that if he does anything demonic, they'll end up at the stake. She yells, "So what are you going to do, you brat?" He says he's thinking and tells her to shut up. From below, Guayachi begins to conjure a light magic. 1, Zian immediately recognizes it as an 8-star attack. 2, he's in disbelief that his father would cast that spell on his own son. 3, and that's exactly what he does. Raising his sword to the heavens, Zian is desperate, wondering what kind of scumbag father he has, but the dragon descends towards the swords and starts dodging everything. He comments, "Good job, dragon. Congrats, buddy. Don't get hit." The problem is that one of the swords appears from behind. Seeing it almost head on, he already knows he won't be able to dodge it. It passes right through the leg he was holding onto, and Zian is thrown into the air. As he falls, he's sad, thinking he lost his pot. While Kieran yells at him to protect himself, that he's gonna fall head first. So our boy says he can't use any mist techniques. She appears in his face, telling him to stop being so cautious, that he'll die if he keeps this up. He tells her to shut up, that he's thinking, in the end, he decides he won't really die, and she can't believe he's just going to let himself fall until he gets an idea. Below him is the Red River, and says he has no choice. He's going straight for it. From afar, someone watches the dragon fleeing and comments that it's rare to see something like that. The person behind him says it's probably just a young one that got separated from its group. The silver-haired man points in a direction and asks if there are demons there, but his friend replies that actually, that's the human region. He looks at the horizon and comments that it shouldn't be possible for humans to defeat dragons. He pauses for a second, and the man with glasses asks if something is wrong. He points, saying he feels a strange energy coming from that almost familiar direction. His friend replies that they can go take a look. However, he warns him that it's forbidden to annihilate everything out of simple boredom. He unfolds his wings and says it's fine, that he won't cause any trouble. He flies off, saying he'll be back soon. Meanwhile, Zian is getting out of the blood lake, throwing himself onto a rock and cursing down to the 10th generation, and asks Kieran if she's alive. Kieran, completely covered in blood, tells him not to talk to her, that she's contemplating how to kill him. He says he'll wash her up a bit when they get back, and she replies that it's fine. Zian, however, tells her to wake up, that they're in the demon realm. Zian tells her not to worry, that it's very rare to find a high-level demon in this place. Someone behind them comments that he knew he would find something interesting. Zian is startled to hear a voice he would never forget. The demon behind him asks if he's human, and Zian knows it's the demon king Belkarion. He remembers that in the past, this man told him the same thing, that Zian was as if evil itself were gathered into a single person. Belkarion asks why he isn't answering. Is he perhaps not human? Suddenly, he's right behind him, asking if he really wants to fight. Zian gets scared, turns around and throws a slash, but Belkarion easily dodges it. However, he manages to cut a small lock of his hair. This impresses Belkarion, who comments that the races truly have infinite possibilities. Kieran asks who he is, and Zian replies that he's the Demon King. She says that if that man is the Demon King, they have no way of defeating him. He knows it's impossible. His best option would be to escape from there, but his hand trembles and he wonders if he'll be able to. He is surprised when Belkarion tells him to relax. He says he didn't come all this way to fight a kid, for God's sake. He lies down on the ground saying, "Do you really think I'm going to beat up a kid?" Zian is completely confused, wondering why that guy is lying down. Belkarion says he will ask one more time if he is human. Zian replies that he is, and Belkarion wants to know how he got there. Our protagonist explains that he was carried by the sea, and the demon comments that it seems to be his first time in the realm. However, he says he felt a strange energy and asks Zian what it is. He replies that he's just a normal human. Belkarion says that even if he says that, it seems he knows who he is. Our boy replies that it makes no sense, that it's the first time they've met. Belkarion stretches his arms, saying that it could be, since it's the first time he's seen a human too. Then he asks why he came there, while wondering why that boy is so calm. Belkarion says he felt a strange energy while he was out for a stroll. He explains that, as the Demon King, he needs to watch over the lands he rules. Belkarion then gets up and tells Zian to repeat what he just said. Zian replies, "You're the Demon King who watches over the lands he rules." Belkarion points at him and says he doesn't seem surprised. Now he's sure he has seen him somewhere, since no kid reacts like that. Zian knows that the invasion of the demon realm is about to begin, But this man is completely different from the one he met before. He wonders what could have happened for his attitude to change so much. Then he asks him as the Demon King what he wants to do. Belkarian smiles and says he's quite reckless for asking the Demon King something like that. Then he comments that it's obvious, as long as his subordinates are alive and eating, he has nothing else to do. But everything changes if someone tries to alter that. In that case, he will wipe them all out. That is his simple duty as the Demon King. For a second, Zian felt the same demonic aura from the man who attacked the Empire the first time. Somehow he has to prevent that from happening again. So he asks Belkarian if he would be willing to make a deal. Belkarian asks what that deal would be. Zian explains that something will happen in the future, an incident that will put all of his subordinates at risk. Belkarian tells him to better explain the nonsense he's spouting. Zian clarifies that he doesn't know exactly how it will happen, but it will be an event that becomes the catalyst to start the war against humanity. Belkarian crosses his arms and asks if he really believes that the Demon King, would attack his own land. Zian replies that's why he wants to make a deal, so that no matter what happens, he won't start a war. Belkarian comments that he has no idea what he's talking about, but asks what he would gain from it if he accepted. The protagonist replies that no matter what happens, he will help the Demon King. Belkarian gets closer and says that from the looks of it, he knows something. Zian starts to sweat and Belkarian asks for his name. After he introduces himself, Belkarian says he will keep that promise as the Demon King. He flies off, saying that he hopes he will also uphold his end of the bargain as it's now a deal. The king smiles and comments that the pact has been sealed. After the encounter with the Demon King, some knights found Zian. Seeing him emerge from the Red Lake, they said it was a miracle he was still alive, which is why he received the title of the one who survived the demonic dragon. Afterwards, they took him to the monastery on the front lines, a place used as a military hospital. Zian asks someone to repeat what was just said. Arin is hesitant to say anything, but finally musters up her courage and the cat shouts, asking if he wants to be hers. The poor guy is confused, not understanding what she means by that. But he replies that he's not interested. She obviously is surprised and starts crying again, saying it was to be expected that she really is the powerless fifth princess. Zian, from the bed, thinks that she's really starting to irritate him. He knows that the Princess Arin is the weak link of the imperial family, and with the risk she's in, her end is obvious. The problem is that he can't get it out of his head that her damn brother is behind her death. So he tells her she's right. Currently, he really can't offer her any benefits. He has no possessions. Takes a hit. Besides, getting involved with her politically is extremely risky. Takes another hit. But he assures her that he will look after her until she resolves what's necessary. She asks if he's really going to do that. Zian says yes, that it's a promise, so she doesn't need to worry. She stands up, saying that she understood that when she can manage on her own, it will be because he has acknowledged her power. She points at him, saying she doesn't know when, but she will make him acknowledge her power. He says he's really looking forward to it, while thinking that just a second ago she was depressed. Before leaving, she says she has one more thing she thanks him for surviving. She leaves, and he stays behind without saying anything. In the back of the camps, in a nearby forest, a hooded man looks from side to side. He takes a square object in his hand and smiles, saying that it won't be long now. A voice tells him, "Denzel Crimson, so it's you?" He can't move his body as if he's trapped by invisible chains, the person behind him says. That's a small dimensional box, and that, considering the timeline, it was from before it was commercialized. That box can store anything as long as the person wishes. From behind, Zian says, that this is then the masterpiece created by the Magic Council. 1. He watched the man for a whole year smuggling things from the Empire. 2. He takes the box, saying that he'll be keeping it now. 3. A 7-star magic knight, Denzel Crimson, who asks who he is. 4. Upon seeing him, he recognizes him as Sayamberte. He throws the objects from the box onto the ground while Denzel wants to know how he found out about it. 5th, Zian ignores him, saying he must have an informant to know where to be at the right time. 6th, Denzel keeps insisting he has no idea what he's talking about. However, Zian says he can't lie. Since the blood of those creatures is already being sold in the Empire, that was how he sent them. That gift of Geljan's blood for him. The man is sweating, wondering who informed that boy and what is happening. He has no idea how Zian caught him, but as long as he can move a little, then he stretches out his hand using a fire magic, saying that Zian must die. He is surprised, and the explosion goes in his direction. Seeing the smoke on him, he says it's a good thing he took him seriously. You really can't underestimate the son of the Verdes. He finally relaxes, but suddenly, his hand is cut off. He screams in pain and can't understand what that mist in front of him is. Seeing Zian, he can't believe he's emerging from the mist. However, Zian grabs him by the neck and throws him against a tree. Zian gives him two options: admit it and die peacefully, or don't admit it and die suffering. In the trade region, in the western part of the camp, people are organizing some boxes. They see that there are 2 boxes of potions and are excited. They're just curious to know what's in that big box. However, upon opening it, they are both surprised it was just Aaron's head. One, from the mountain, Chiron asks if he's just gonna let the other guys live. 2, he says yes, that's enough of a warning. 3, those guys were always smuggling demon artifacts into the Empire. 4, the items would then arrive at the Magic Council, a place where people would do any kind of crazy thing to understand magic. Zian says that what they'll do with the demon blood is unthinkable, so they need to be stopped. Chiron says that in this new life he is only living for others, but Zian says he's just preventing other people from using demon blood in the Empire. In a certain mansion, a certain man is receiving a letter and discovers that Zian has just gone to the battlefront with his father. There's a very attractive girl in the bed. This villain knows how to enjoy life. She asks if that Zian isn't his younger half-brother. He says yes, and comments that the boy is problematic in many ways. His brother says he would have to take a look at Zian. Some suitcases are piled up, and Emily celebrates that they are finally off the front line. She is sure that the academy will be a much quieter place than the front line, while Zian knows it will be terrifying. The academy is not exactly the place Emily dreams of. It's actually a cruel place where lives are destroyed for political interests. A place dominated by envy and greed, where curiously, studies aren't even the priority, but Emily is there daydreaming, saying she will find a gadget instructor. Zian starts to realize that she will be following him at the academy. A while later, he is back in the Duchy of Ver. He hears a noise, looks to the side, and it's Krans getting startled. Zian tries to say hello, but the boy has already run off. 1, Kieran asks who that idiot was, and he replies that it's that Krans guy, but not to worry about him. 2, Kieran says that this brother of his is the complete opposite, and he replies that it makes no sense. 3, because his opposite is someone else, the door opens and he is back in the mansion. Only this time, all the butlers greet him. Qian remembers that before they wouldn't even look at him, but now they are showing this insignificant courtesy, probably on his father's orders. Really, hard work has made many things change in this last year. He places his hand on the lock, but just as he is about to open the door, he feels some energy and says he knows very well who it is to make him tremble so much with rage. He slowly opens the door, and sure that behind it can only be that bastard, Easel says it's been a long time since they've seen each other, while all Zian can think is that he must stay calm. Since he says nothing, Easel asks if he has perhaps forgotten his brother. What Xian is trying to do is stay calm, while Easel says that maybe he has forgotten since they last saw each other when he left for the academy. But Qian's eyes are already red, realizing that he won't be able to stay calm. Preparing the dagger in his hand, he is sure he will kill him now, but Kieran grabs his fist and warns him that if he doesn't want his skull smashed, he must control himself. Besides, killing him now wouldn't be any fun. With that, he calms down and greets his older brother. Essel asks, "So you do remember me?" Qian says it's impossible to forget a brother's face. Easel pats his head, saying he is very happy. He was worried his little brother wouldn't remember him. It's a relief. He even heard that his little brother's swordsmanship improved drastically and that very soon he will be helping the house of Ver, or better yet, on the battlefield. Zian says that is true and that he is very eager to help his brother in battles. Easel looks at him intently and says he is very relieved to hear that, since the reason he came all this way was just to find him. Zian knows that Isol is the type of person who completely ignores those who are not useful to him, and now that he perceives his brother is only there out of interest in using him, he relaxes and says that he also really wanted to see his brother. Meanwhile, Emily is carrying both of their suitcases, exhausted. She leaves them in the hallway, saying that this was too difficult. She yells towards the door, asking how he had the nerve to leave everything to Emily when he suddenly appears in front of her. It's him. He smiles at her, saying he heard that they are very close and wants her to keep working hard for Zian. They both leave, thanking him, and then she yells at Zian, saying she almost died of fright, asking why he didn't warn her he was there. Zian ignores her and asks her to leave for a moment, and she wants to know why. Coldly, he looks at her and says he won't repeat himself. She gets scared by his expression. Zian goes to the bathroom and starts throwing up in the toilet. He's dizzy and asks Iram why she stopped him. She replies that he should be grateful. She tells him it was the perfect opportunity. If he were defeated, she could take over his body. She says that guy, Kieran, doesn't understand that the more hatred he feels, the better it is for her. He smiles, saying that's really how she is. Meanwhile, a man arrives at Ezel's door and asks to enter. Ezel tells him to come in, and the man reports that he has confirmed the location of the second young lady. Ezel asks where, and the man confirms that she is residing on the northern continent, in the land of the elves, over in Pruna. Ezel smiles, saying it's incredible how she manages to get along even with a race that hates foreigners. That's a testament to the affinity she has. Then, he asks to be informed if she shows any sign of returning to the Empire. The man asks if something happened that changed Ezel's mood, and Ezel asks why he thinks so. The man explains that he has a much more radiant aura. Could it be that meeting his brother was that incredible? Ezel says that incredible might be one way to put it. However, right now he is quite annoyed. The poor servant begins to tremble and apologizes. Ezel paid close attention to Qian's gaze, interpreting it as someone who has just seen their enemy. Could he have seen something wrong? He knows there is something strange about that boy, and he will have to watch him closely. The butler says he understands and mentions that he will send someone to keep an eye on him. Ezel stands there, looking out the window, remembering Qian's gaze as he wonders what he is hiding. In front of the mansion, the carriages gather as Emily yells that she is very disappointed in the young master. Zian says it's her fault he can't go because she's no good as a guard, and she gets furious, saying he should have told her sooner. The carriage starts to move and Zian says goodbye to her, telling her to take it easy while she tells him not to cry just because she won't be there. Emily makes a mocking face, saying she got it, while Emily is surprised that he's really leaving like this. She starts shouting, saying that even if they bully him and beat him up, he shouldn't get discouraged. From a distance, she yells for him to come back safe and sound. Meanwhile, he remembers that when he was 8 years old, he caught a very high fever that made him pass out. Back then, no one else took care of him, and it was Emily who carried him on her back, even in the rain. She was the only one in the family who tried to find a doctor to help him. After searching for a long time, an old man opened the door. If it hadn't been for her that day, he probably would have been found dead in one of the rooms of the mansion. With a radiant smile, he tells her that if she keeps taking care of him like that, she'll end up dying, and he can't take her to the academy, because to him, she is very precious. He's now alone in the carriage, but impressed that they assigned 6 intermediate knights just to take the young master to the academy. You'll probably see blood before you get there. It was already getting dark. Some knights looked at each other and decided to stop. They notified Zian, who asked how far they still were. They said they were near the central city of Safaruni and would probably arrive tomorrow morning. 2, Zian says he understands and asks them to call him when they finish setting things up. 3, although he already knows it's a lie because that forest is nowhere near Safaruni. 4, making camp. In the middle of the afternoon in an isolated place and also lying about the location makes it obvious they're planning something. 5, Zian starts to get out of the carriage when they tell him everything is ready. He comes out pretending to be naive, saying that the air there is very nice. Already surrounded by the 6 knights, he wants to know who gave the order. In the background, one of them looks at him hesitantly. Beads of sweat run down everyone's faces and no one says a word. However, One of them has a small smirk. 2. Zian notices this and asks once more who gave the order. 3. The man begins to unsheath his sword, saying he doesn't need to know. 4. Since he's going to die soon. They approach, apologizing and saying it's nothing personal. 5. But out of respect, they'll do it in the most painful way possible, so he should just close his eyes. 6. The knight moves forward, ready to strike, saying his goodbyes. The blade is about to reach his neck, when suddenly the man's head is already flying off. He falls to the ground like a sack of trash, and the others just stare in disbelief. Zian says he'll ask one more time who gave the order. Now they are all terrified, trembling, and not knowing what to do. Zian asks why they're so frozen. Did they really think it would be this easy? One of the knights thinks he can't even believe what he's seeing. Another one tries to attack him, this time from behind. However, in an instant, Zian is already on the other side and has landed 2 slashes. The next one gets a blow to the shoulder and another to the arm. One of them tries to take the chance to flee, but he's obviously already dying. Zian only attacked Kieran from behind. The man who was just standing there is now crying, wondering if this is something an 11-year-old kid can do. He hasn't even moved from his spot, and they're all already dead. Apparently, he didn't survive that dragon by luck. Assigning intermediate knights for this mission was a big mistake. The crying man falls to the ground. Zian approaches once more and tells him to say who it was. The man, sobbing, confesses that it was all Duchess Margaret's doing. He's a bit bewildered, since he didn't even have to do much to make the man talk. The poor guy is crying and shaking. Why do you think he confessed? The carriage is on the move, and he is calmly driving Zian. He explains to Zian that it seems it was all young Master Krans' doing. He asked his mother to somehow stop Zian from bothering him at the academy, apparently. This whole mission was the result of that request. Zian remembers the fool who is always running away, and is now behind all this. He'll really have to help him a bit at the academy. The man calls out to Zian, a little embarrassed, and asks what will happen to him now. Is he going to die too? Zian tells him he doesn't seem very attached to his life. The man replies that he knows they tried to kill him, so it makes sense for him to die. Zian tells him to at least drive the carriage properly to have some use while he's alive. The man understands what he meant and thanks Zian. Zian comments that it seems they've already arrived, at the central city of Safarun. A vase falls to the floor. Margaret is asking how it's possible that they found all 6 of them dead. The butler informs her that is the case, and that young Master Zian arrived in the city of Safarun 10 days ago. Margaret, furious, says that the butler assured her there wouldn't be any problems. So what happened? The butler apologizes, saying they underestimated the boy. She says it's impossible for a 10-year-old boy to have killed so many men. The butler suggests he probably had help from someone unknown to them, but it's okay. They just need to send an assassin to infiltrate the academy. She says that's enough, and if he finds out it was her doing and mistreats Krans because of it, already remembering when Zian asked if her son needed to graduate. 1, biting her lip, she says that's enough, that it's better not to do anything else before things get more complicated. 2, besides, no one must find out about this incident, so the best thing to do is to eliminate everyone affiliated with it. 3, Cell Spy overheard the entire conversation. 10 days have passed since Zian left Safarun. Brian has been playing his role as a servant all this time and knows that the news of his survival must have reached the mansion. Yes, however, at this rate he'll get to the academy without any problems. He'll have to start wondering if he should get rid of Brian. Brian suddenly opens the window with a smile, announcing that they've arrived. Zian says it's fine, he gets it, this city brings back memories. It can't be said that they are good memories, but this academy changed a lot for him. 2, he presents his family's crest at the reception, a little excited. 3, the girl says she'll register him, that everything is in order. He will receive his room as well and everything will be fine. 4, Zian notices that she acted a bit strangely. Could there be a problem? 5. Then she hands him a letter, along with a golden key. Zian is surprised and asks if she gave him the right one. Brian drops the bags on the floor and is shocked. Brian wonders if this is the place where he'll be staying, the royal dormitory, the best one they have. However, Zian remembers that in his past life this didn't happen to anyone, which means someone is pulling strings to get him in there. Zian asks Brian if that was the last bag, and he replies that yes, he brought everything. Zian puts his hand in his coat, saying that now that they are at the academy and he has finished carrying the bags, his job is over. Brian starts to sweat and says, "Wait, kid." Then Zian throws a bag of coins at him, who, surprised, asks, "What's this?" Zian says that it should be enough for him to start over wherever he goes. He just advises him not to return to the mansion or he will die. Brian stands still for a moment without saying anything. Suddenly, he kneels and declares that he, Brian Kendrick, a knight officer of Velaz, wishes to serve young Master Zian until the end of his life. Zian asks if he's really a knight. Brian replies that yes, although he admits he's not very good, so he's actually more of a helper. However, his father once told him that for a knight without much talent, if he found someone he could trust, he shouldn't hesitate. Zian says, "That's nonsense." Brian, confused, asks what Zian means by that. He asks him if he's not afraid of being betrayed, then Brian answers no, even if that happened, he wouldn't care. Zian warns him that he'd better not try something like that, walking out the door. Zian comments that it's a pain, it's the entrance ceremony, and then they'll go straight to the exam. Brian, a bit nervous, says it's okay. The academy's dean and a girl comment that this year there are many talented people. All the students are gathered in a room. In the center of the room is a girl wrapped in an aura. One, Arin Sevelru, has a 2-star magic grade, a B-rank physique, and a light element of 52 by 102. Another boy named Setsa Arkan is a 3-star mage with an A-rank physique and an earth element of 71 by 103. The old man, scratching his beard, says that those kids are incredible, but that boy from House Amber has a 1-star magic grade, an S-rank physique, and a darkness element of 92%. One, the academy instructor, Siri Kenagritti, comments that even Elsveta, known as the Daughter of God, had a water element of 88 by 102. The old man, Kundel Kazel, chancellor of the academy, mentions that it's interesting how the person everyone thought had insurmountable talent was surpassed by her own brother. However, 3-1. Siri, who mentions that his element is darkness, and the dean explains that due to the nature of darkness, some people don't manifest it and waste their talent. He adds that Zian received a royal dormitory. 2, Siri, who says she heard that from other instructors. 3, and the dean informs that it was by the emperor's order. It seems Zian saved Princess Erin, who was with him on the front lines against some demonic beasts. The emperor is even considering a marriage. The 5th princess, excluded from the succession to the throne, and the Birdie family, known for being a cradle of talented warriors. The instructor asks what she thinks will happen, and Siri, who replies that if that happens, it will accelerate the revolts in the empire and there will probably be more bloodshed. The dean says that for now, they can do nothing but watch if that boy becomes a hero or a disaster. Walking down the hall, Zian reflects on 92%, since in his past life it was 80%. Could it be because of the demonic beast blood he drank? Walking, he sees someone, it's Krans, who, surprised, says his name nervously. The chubby boy behind him asks if that's the brat who treats him like a slave. The chubby guy looks at him and asks, "Is it true you don't even know who your mother is?" Zian recognizes that boy as the son of a marquis, Paper Penneron. In his past life, he was also by Krans' side, tormenting him, so it seems perfect to have found them together. The chubby guy tells Krans to step aside, that this brat must be crushed. Krans, sweating, says he'd better not, but he gets kicked and is thrown against the wall while screaming in desperation. Yeah, Zian asks him if he wants to talk about a few things, and the hesitant guy answers yes. Yeah, the boy is sweating more than a marathon runner. When Zian puts his hand on his shoulder, he warns him that he doesn't care if he keeps planning those things, but if he finds out anything else, he won't, saying that this academy will be a lot of fun. In one of the rooms, Siri, who is reflecting on Zian, says she'll have to pay close attention to that boy. She heads to a shelf and touches a book, wondering why it's not there. Then, behind her, Zian asks if she's looking for something, making her jump in surprise. She turns around amicably, asking how a student got into this restricted area. However, she thinks it's strange because she couldn't sense his presence. She draws closer and closer, asking if he's the boy named Zian, and couldn't he return that book to her? It's research material. He replies that yes, of course he'll give it back. However, he seems to hand her a sheet of paper instead. As she thanks him, Siri suddenly feels an aura emanating, and one of the books in the room starts to levitate. And Zian asks if that wasn't what she was looking for, Instructor Siri, or should he say, the current leader of the Mist Assassins. Obviously, she wants to know how he found out. Zian recalls that in his past life, he thought of her as just an ordinary instructor. She would ask him how his life at the academy was going, and he would say nothing. He used to attend counseling sessions with her. When she talked about the growth potential he had, Zian thought she didn't care at all about him. It all seemed like a joke. However, one day, Siri mentioned that she had taken an interest in him, saying she found someone with an 84% affinity for shadows, interesting, but Zian replied that it was an element that didn't always manifest. Siri said that humanity simply didn't understand shadows properly yet. Unlike others, she believed his growth potential was infinite. That stirred something in Zian. Siri wished him all the best for his future, and Zian thought that maybe she could guide him, or at least that's what he believed at that moment, as he was just being deceived. The woman behind those glasses is very different from the academy instructor, as she was actually the leader of the Mist Assassins, hiding out in the academy, where most of the continent's nobles gather. Suddenly she says that's fine, she wants to hear the details in her laboratory. So she leads him there. Zian is surprised. She seems calmer than he expected. Looking around the lab, he comments that it looks the same as always. He's about to drink the coffee when he notices it's poisoned. Now he understands why she was so calm. She tells him not to worry. It's just enough to melt a few organs, but Zian is confident. After consuming so many demons with Emily, he can digest anything. He asks for something stronger next time. She says it's time they had a serious talk. She wants to know how he knows her true identity. Furthermore, how he knows the exact location of the hidden instructions in the books that nobody at the academy touches. He wants to reveal something before she discovers that he is also part of the Mist. Zian replies that he doesn't need to prove anything else to her. She looks at him, saying he's getting cocky just because he has a good affinity with that element. Zian comments that on the way over, everyone told him he should bring more than just a knight, and that's because many nobles have been dying lately when the purification process began. She smiles and asks, "Purification process?" 1, she activates her aura and claims she has no idea what he's talking about. 2, Zian says he'll make it clearer, he's talking about the assassinations. 3, Siri says he'll regret those threats, and he asks if she's threatening a student. 4, she suddenly kicks the table, sending everything flying in his direction. Kieran looks surprised, asking if this is how she really acts. Siri is already behind him with a dagger in her hand, as Zian says he has now proven her identity. She lunges, saying that as the leader of the association, there's no way she wouldn't recognize one of her own from the Mist. She tries to attack with a slash, but Zian dodges it. She lunges again, saying that this time he won't be able to escape. Zian summons Kieran, thinking he has no other choice, and blocks her attack, telling her that since she doesn't believe him, he'll have to show her. He begins to attack her, forcing her to defend herself and retreat. She, sweating, asks if that blade is what she's thinking it is. The sword that can only be wielded by the Chosen Ones, the demonic blade of Kieran. Zian asks if she finally recognizes it, because at this very moment, the Mist must be working to find her. Sirik wants to know how he knows that. Zian tells her that the heir she's searching for is right in front of her, on a street in Reuben, in a secluded house. Someone uses magic to open a lock. It's Sirik with Zian. He comments that she doesn't seem very impressed, that the Mist's hideout is right there. That's the path to the altar she wants so badly. He tells her he can go alone. Zian walks through the tunnels. This is a subspace created by the powers of the Mist God. That's why it's much more extensive than it seems, however. He perfectly remembers the direction he needs to take, and every single trap present. Suddenly, some men attack him from behind, and he comments that this welcoming ceremony is a little over the top. He defends himself from a few attacks and backs away. The men throw a mass of mud and he has to shield himself. However, one of them nearly dies trying to defend himself as well. Zian is impressed that the man managed to dodge that so quickly. The man, amazed, activates a technique. The secret technique. Multiple clones start attacking him from all directions, but Zian has a technique of his own. The men seem to recognize it and don't understand how a kid knows how to use something like that. Zian uses the wave of killing intent. It's a technique exclusive to those who have been assassins for a long time, allowing the user to inflict deep fear on everyone around. The men can't even breathe and fall unconscious to the ground. Zian knows they won't be getting up for a while, but it's impressive that one is still standing. Could he be some kind of executive? Then, the man activates another ability and lunges, closing in on him. Zian manages to defend himself, but the man nullifies his technique. The mask falls to the ground. Sirik reappears and says she can no longer hold back. Sember, he is left confused, not understanding. It's Lady Sirik again, saying she wants him to show his true power. Zian uses another technique, a savage attack, and throws her backward. She comments that it seems interesting, how he can use 2 assassination skills so easily. She wanted to see his potential, but the boy is already fleeing. Zian knows she has something called battle lust. When she's consumed by it, she'll keep fighting until one of them is dead. Having experienced this before, he knows he has to escape. However, she, thrilled, tells him to come back, because she knows that's what he wants too. She attacks him one more time and he manages to defend himself. She comments that this is a subspace where nobody will notice a thing. He doesn't need to hold back. Zian realizes he has no escape. He'll really have to use all of his techniques. Even if there's a risk that she might end up dead, he has no other choice. Suddenly, he feels something and falls to the ground, hit by a stone. Kira appears, saying she knew things would end up like this and asks him to rest for a while. Sirik asks who she is, Kira appears and comments. Who didn't want to get involved, but Siri, who already knows who he is, doesn't hesitate. Siri bows, recognizing the demon blade. Kiran, annoyed, asks how she dares to attack her master. Siri explains that all of this was a process to confirm Zian's identity. Kiran tells her she should have contacted God instead of doing all this, but since she decided to do it that way, now she will consider it a challenge. Siri comments that perhaps she should worry about the heir first. Isn't that right? Kiran gets scared when she sees the boy is passed out, covered in blood. Siri explains that the way Kiran is materializing is very flawed, as she's draining all of Zian's life force. Kiran grabs him by the neck, annoyed, and asks how he can be so weak after drinking so much blood. Siri then mentions that as the leader of the Mist, she would never refuse a battle if Kiran really wants to be an opponent. She shouldn't back down. Kiran is surprised, saying that girl is very strange. Suddenly, Zian asks why she materialized. 2. Kiran replies that he doesn't need to worry, that she'll just crush that reckless girl. 3. Siri, who is also excited, saying it will be an honor for her. 4. Kiran warns her not to beg later. 5. And Siri replies that she is eager to see how far it goes. 6. Suddenly, a voice in the hall interrupts, saying, "Enough!" Both recognize the voice of Lord Ether. A portal begins to open, filling the atmosphere with tension. The voice orders them to take the heir to the altar, and Siri nods. Zian, excited, says that he will finally meet him, the god of shadows. Some think the god of the mist is an evil entity, that for him, murder is as common as eating. A being who justifies their actions under the pretense that they do it for the good of the world. However, he claims that the deaths of those people were a good thing, since by paying with their lives, they became righteous. Most considered that logic to be insane and thought that God was an idiot. A god who seemed to want to protect the helpless. Zian crosses the portal and finds himself in front of a staircase. From a throne, the god asks if he knows who he is. Zian replies that, of course, he is Sayer, the god of the black mist. The god asks if he is Cyan Birdie. He wants to know what right he has to consider himself his heir. Zian questions him, asking if he can't feel that the power of the mist is already present in him. The god explains that there are 2 ways to become an heir. The first is for him to give the Mist Stone to someone, and the second is for the Mist Stone to find its own heir. Since he doesn't know Zian, it must be the second case. He knows the stone disappeared from the altar a year ago. The strange thing is that it not only awakened Kiran, but he also seems to be using it very well. Moreover, his eyes are not normal for someone his age. With that, the god concludes that Zian belongs to a timeline that he doesn't know. Zian, curious, says that he thought the god knew everything. The god replies that if he was looking for an omnipotent being, he came to the wrong place. A long time ago, he was disqualified from the status of a god. Zian already suspected that. However, the god comments that all of this seems strangely easy for Zian. Zian asks what he means by that. The god explains that he was just sitting peacefully when suddenly his heir appeared because Zian did all the work. Furthermore, he brought a very unpleasant object. To think he'd be dissatisfied with the demon blade and try to obtain the power of the sword, the Holy One, for himself. Zian smiles, saying he doesn't care if that object never sees the light of day. It will be nothing more than a piece of trash. The god stands up, commenting that Zian has very strange habits. However, the formalities must be observed. Raising his arm, he declares that he will now be the absolute creator, the heir who will succeed his power, and asks if Zian wants that. 4. Zian remembers that in his past life, at that moment he answered that he would live for his older brother. Obviously it was foolish, but back then they didn't seem to care much about his answer. When he left, the place collapsed, and Zian wondered if they wanted something from him. The god mentioned that there are more important things than a foolish conviction. Now Zian thinks that maybe the god already knew everything that would happen. He approaches, saying he no longer has any interests or beliefs, and the confused god listens. Zian says that he will use his power in the most selfish way possible, only for himself. The god says that right and wrong are determined by oneself and wants to know if he will regret that decision. He better answer cautiously or he will be killed. Now, Zian says he doesn't care about the results his actions will bring. He is not going to listen to anyone's orders or commands, since following his own path is the only thing he desires. The god says it seems he has something in mind and asks what it is, but Zian says he won't tell him. The god says that all he has to do is purify the names assigned to him, so the rest doesn't matter. However, he appears behind Kiran and says that now it is time to have a chat with his daughter. He starts stretching her cheeks, saying she has changed a lot, asking if she likes the master that much while trying to give her kisses. While he says he is very happy with his daughter's growth, she tells him to get away. The god is trying to show all his love physically. Meanwhile, she asks Zian for help, who pretends to see nothing. Then, as he gets closer to give her a kiss, a pentagram appears. A spell begins to form, and she wants to know what is happening. Suddenly, she takes on a physical form. Looking at her hands, she doesn't understand what is happening or why she feels like she now truly has a body. And Zian realizes that not even a bit of his mana has been consumed. Kiran wants to know what that bastard did, but he says he did nothing. He just gave her a bit of his power. Now that she is in physical form, it will be necessary for her to do a dally-dally with her master. It's censored like that, right? But I think that's what she is shaking his face, while our protagonist thinks that the father and daughter are identical. The next day in the dorms, Brian went to ask Zian what that was. He said it was nothing important, and not to think too much about it. Brian said that it is important, young master. He doesn't believe it's something that can be ignored. With the two of them glaring at each other and sparks flying, Kiran is questioning why. Sirik came so early to visit the young master. This way, everyone will start to say there is a relationship between the instructor and the student. Sirik says it's nothing important, she just came to deliver a book to a very studious boy. With rage, Kiran says that as a leader, she should behave better. Meanwhile, Sirik wants to know why he is meddling so much in what others are doing. The protagonist is there. Not knowing what to do, he decides it's better not to get involved and leaves the room saying he's going for a walk. The two of them are fighting and Brian is sweating. Not knowing what to do, Zian watches the bustling city from behind a pillar. He finally manages to relax a bit, but suddenly he smells blood. Someone is thrown to the ground. Siri, all beaten up, gets up spitting blood. Some guys there say they should try doing that thing It's really terrible, so it'll be fun. The blonde guy forms a ball of mana in his hand. Showing it to her, he tells her to look, grabs her mouth, and says he brought something delicious. When a friend brings something delicious, you have to eat it. She abruptly closes her mouth in desperation. However, someone suddenly orders him to stop. One of the students was about to hit a boy with something when Aaron told him not to do that. She said it was shameful for a noble to act in such a way. The blonde guy turned and warned that he was the son of Duke Rumei, Barit Ruame. And who was she? She introduced herself as the princess of the empire, Arin Sevelru. The guy smiled, saying it was none other than her. He wondered aloud who the famous fifth princess of the empire, Miss Aaron, was. He approached her, saying it was an honor to meet her. Aaron said she wasn't there to meet him and that he had better explain the situation in front of her. The guy said fine, that the best thing to do was to ask the boy. Looking at the kid, he told him to speak up now, even though he looked scared. He grabbed him by the collar and asked if he was okay. Obviously, the boy said he was perfectly fine and that nothing had happened. Aaron said there was no point in hiding something so obvious and that he clearly wasn't okay with that appearance. The boy looked away, saying he was fine. He told her to leave, saying they were just playing. Beret started laughing, asking if she heard that, right? Apparently, she was really someone. He must have felt insulted by her. Aaron said she didn't care and that she was taking the boy with her. However, the blonde guy grabbed her wrist, saying he didn't get it. She demanded to know what he was doing. The blonde guy said the boy had already told her to leave. Aaron began to threaten him, saying that he was holding the arm of an imperial princess. The blonde guy just laughed, saying it didn't matter, since she was just the useless fifth princess. However, Zian was nearby and heard everything, and suddenly the guy got hit so hard he went spinning like a boy. Aaron blushed upon seeing Zian. He, however, was more curious about Remus. Who was this guy in front of him? Two people were exchanging blows in the Garanfort Empire. Klein. Zian was fighting someone who turned out to be the most powerful swordswoman of her era, Rasmus Klein. What a surprise. I thought she was a guy. Now, this is a real plot twist. You think she's one of the guys, but she's actually an amazing girl. Originally, she belonged to the UCF Empire, however. For some reason, she joined the Kingdom of Gran after graduating from the academy. She even changed her nationality. Zian defended himself from the attack and was thrown backward. He was surprised when she leaped to attack. He then disappeared and reappeared behind her, and landed a blow on her spine that sent her to the ground. I thought they were just training, but in reality, he killed her under orders from the Empire. The order was to assassinate her secretly, however. She found him, and they ended up having a kind of official duel. For him, there was no particular reason for it. He just saw her as an incredible person. Since he reached the pinnacle of swordsmanship without having mana and he didn't want to kill someone so talented without giving them a chance to fight. His friends called out to Beret, while Remus was there, half in shock. Beret started to get up, wondering why there were so many idiots worrying about other people's business. He recognized the guy as Siam Bear and said he'd heard rumors that he was on the front lines. Did he want to get involved in their games? 1. Zian thought those games weren't fun at all. 2. Injecting mana orbs into people's bodies could make all their mana collapse and they would never be able to use magic again. 3. Zian asked if that was the game where they shoved mana orbs into people's mouths. He started creating a dark one, saying he would join in too. However, Beret started to break out in a cold sweat when Zian had already created a spirit bomb above him. He asked him what he was doing. Why wasn't his mouth open yet? There he was, wanting to shove the big ball into the blonde guy's mouth. Back in the dorms, Remus was a wreck in her bed. Aaron said they had already taken care of the trouble and that she should just get some rest. And she thanked them, saying she had no way to repay them. For some reason, Aaron felt proud, saying that her dear Zian had taken care of everything, so she had nothing to worry about. Suddenly, Zian was thinking about all of Remus's problems and found it incredible that she hadn't passed out after so many fractures. She was truly worthy of the title of the strongest swordswoman. Suddenly, Remus asked if he knew her. A bit uncomfortable, she said she had noticed that he looked at her a lot, Aaron. Zian said he thought she was someone he knew, but to forget about it and apologized for making her uncomfortable. Aaron was just watching what he said, and the other girl, who was now saying that everything was fine, a little embarrassed, Aaron suddenly asked Remus where she was staying and what would happen if those guys came back to hurt her again. She said they were in the common dorms, and Aaron asked if she didn't have any kind of noble status. She replied that she had only gotten in through a special admission, and because of Instructor Beltham, he had promised to help her when she was at the academy, but as soon as she arrived, he was expelled. Zian then understood she had lost the person who supported her and said that what she had suffered was the least of it. Maybe she would be expelled from there very soon. And Aaron feels a little sad about this situation, and Zian tells her to accept Remus as her assistant. That way she could even learn swordsmanship from the girl. Aaron is surprised and asks him why he's calling that boy a girl. Can't she see he's a boy? Zian replies that the person over there is a girl. Aaron's world collapses in that moment. From the background, Remus apologizes, saying she didn't mean to deceive anyone. It's just that she's preferred to wear her hair short since she was little, so sometimes people get confused. In the Demon's Play, it was the boy who was a girl. Now, here, it's the girl who is a boy, although inverted. Aaron apologizes while crying, saying she didn't understand and she doesn't even know how Zian noticed. Remus says it's okay, that she's the one who should be apologizing. Then, Aaron asks what she thinks of Zian's suggestion, since it seems like a good idea to her. If she joins her, she won't suffer because of other people anymore. That way she can focus on her studies and live a comfortable life. Remus asks what she could do for Aaron. Aaron says that lately she's been feeling very lonely and needs someone close by. Remus thanks Aaron and says that from now on she will be her assistant and will never embarrass her. Aaron turns, saying that she should thank. Rasmus, where is Shan? He's already gone. The boy, he knows that from now on she can handle the rest. He now understands why Rasmus left the UCF Empire. And she probably wouldn't have lost control of her mana if it weren't for that beret of Rumi. Now, the person who is already the most powerful swordswoman on the continent will have her mana intact. She will probably be someone difficult even for him to defeat, but that doesn't matter. Because his attention is now on something else, the thing Ciri personally handed him that morning, his order. With the letter in hand, he thinks this is going to be quite difficult for a first challenge. However, he remembers that when she handed it to him, she said she believed in his potential. The problem is that if missions are already starting this complicated, he doesn't even want to think about what he'll have to do in a few days. Suddenly, he hears something nearby and an explosion out of nowhere. Sheehan wonders if a monster has invaded the academy. However, what appears is a muscular 3-meter-tall guy asking if he is Cian Vert. A little embarrassed, our boy simply asks if the man knows who he is, and he replies that he does. The man claims to be a level 1 mage, but has an S-rank physique, and he knows very well that Cian Vert is the youngest of the house. See man, this guy's name is Seth Sarkon, and he's 11 years old. I'm with Seth on this one. Without understanding how an 11-year-old kid could have so much muscle and be so tall, Seth starts to flex his biceps, talking about what he's heard about Cian's feats, from killing creatures to surviving an encounter with a dragon. He also heard that the boy received an S-rank physique evaluation, something not even he himself could achieve, and that's why he wants to challenge him to a fight. It's then that Cian seems to recognize this guy, all because of the mark on his chest. It represented Spenia, which was a sand empire, and this guy, it seems, is its prince. This country is located in a desert to the east. And in his past life, the entire Spenian army revolved around a single person, a prince, who single-handedly made it impossible for any army to conquer Spenia. It was a nation that carried the pride of never having been conquered. However, the prince suddenly declined, ignoring his health so much and focused so much on training that he ended up dying from a random cold. Wow, what an epic story. What Cian never imagined was meeting the prince of this nation here. He's sure that this didn't happen in his past life and now it's going to be a problem. However, he decides to respond by asking if the guy wants to fight now. Seth says yes, claiming it's the only way to determine who the strongest man is. He says he won't take no for an answer. However, that's exactly what he gets from Cian, and Seth asks why. Our protagonist explains that fights like this must be approved by the Academy first. They'd have to go to the office and submit a formal request. Seth immediately wants to know where this office is so he can go there now. As soon as Zian tells him, the guy runs off saying he'll be back soon. Our boy thinks that the guy is all muscle. For real. After all, the office is in the opposite direction. But he doesn't need to mention that. One, not to mention there's no such thing as a training request, but he'll let the guy figure it out on his own. Two, oh, the poor guy! Completely fooled. The scene then changes to the city. 3. A hooded man tells Lord Zickerman that the product is ready. 4. The man tells him not to just stand there and to notify all the clients immediately. Zickerman Albus was one of the 3 richest men on the continent. Publicly, he's known as a generous philanthropist for his donations, but in reality, he's trash who forces breeding between species. This is because he wants to create new mixed breeds to sell on the black market. Zian is already watching as he hears the man say that today, the best product he ever imagined will be born. Now, Zian's target is confirmed, and it seems this will be easier than he thought. However, as he checks in with Kieran, she says she's sensing a complex energy. He's confused, and she says the target seems to be hiding something. Zickerman then stops in front of the cell and says he finally has some peace and quiet. He tells his moneymaker to sleep well, but that's when he notices a strange black mist around him. Someone behind him attacks. The first decapitated man falls to the ground and the knight asks, "Who's there?" Desperate, Zickerman screams for someone to kill whoever it is, but Zian rushes the man and throws a punch that makes him drop his sword. Another blow behind the knee and Kieran is already at his neck. Before the man can say anything, he's already down. This one doesn't hesitate. Zickerman starts screaming, asking where the rest of the knights are. Zian simply says that he'll find out soon enough when he joins them. Even though he had hired a lot of people, they were useless, crawling on the ground. Zickerman asks if he wants money, but Zian just cuts off his hand and says he already has enough of that. The fool falls to the ground and Zian calls him by his name. He tells him he will be punished for the inhuman things he has done and for his involvement in the slave market. That alone is reason enough for him to die, but since he's feeling generous, he'll give him 1 minute to repent for everything and free himself from the pain. Rick Gonzalez Zickerman. However, crying, he says it doesn't matter, since he'll be killed anyway. He tries to explain that all they do is make a living. The real culprits are the people interested in buying the products. Zian just says that his minute is up and he didn't even repent. He activates the 8 stanzas of the Black Mist and begins a sequence of attacks on his back. Now that the main part was complete, he could take a look around. As he approaches Masera, he asks Kieran if this is the place, and she says yes. She was sensing 2 combined energies, then he cuts the barrier and looks surprised. On the ground is a girl holding an egg in her hands, but she already looks dead. He says there's nothing special, just a girl. However, Kieran tells him to pay attention. In her arms, she was holding a dragon egg. Now we're back at home. Jolkin asks where he got that, and our boy just plays it cool, saying he found it somewhere. Obviously, the man doesn't believe him and asks, what kind of nonsense is that? I found it, but Sean is more worried about whether that guy was really going to sell something as dangerous as this, and who the buyer was and where it was supposed to be delivered. Jolkin then asks what they're going to do if this thing suddenly hatches and turns out to be extremely dangerous. But Sean tells him not to worry, since a dragon is a mass of energy that needs certain attributes. The egg would only hatch if it were continuously injected with the correct magic attribute, but just as he says this, they hear a crack. They both turn to see that the egg is starting to hatch. With this, the fool realizes he really messed up. A light begins to emanate, and finally the egg breaks. From it comes a little girl. Right? What did you think was going to come out? A crazy dragon? No. Of course it had to be a lowly. Jolkin is losing his mind, wondering what they're going to do, but Sean is more impressed that she's a mixed race, and the fact that she's half human makes this a much bigger problem than he imagined, but the little dragon girl smiles at him, even gives him a hug. Since he was present at her birth, he starts to imagine that maybe she sees him as her father. Suddenly, someone nearby laughs. It's Kieran, who says it's ironic that an 11-year-old boy is now a father. But Sean says it's all her fault. Then we see the moment he picked up the egg and asked if they really should take it. Kieran said yes, because it could fall into the wrong hands. Our boy was afraid it would hatch, but she assured him that a dragon egg wouldn't hatch without the right energy or a mother. Back in the present, she says this just goes to show that anything can happen. Our boy asks what that nonsense was about the egg not being able to hatch without a mother. And she replies that's why she said anything can happen, but this business of a mixed race was really curious. The mere existence of that creature was dangerous. The protagonist knows this. And the worst part is that this is going to be a huge headache. A half-human, half-beast hybrid was already a problem. Now a half-dragon made everything much more complicated. The world they lived in was too dangerous for something like this to exist if someone at the academy discovered her existence. The chances of her being eliminated to prevent a threat were very high. Besides, dragons were extremely proud of their race and pure blood if they discovered this girl's existence. They would certainly come to eliminate her. This makes him wonder why he would take such a big risk. If she was destined to live such a difficult life, maybe it would be better to end her. 2. Salon smiles and says he agrees that maybe this is the best solution for the girl. 3. He places his hand on her neck and Salon says that's the right path. Since it would be a life of misery anyway, and Zian keeps telling himself it would be better to end her life right there. But she starts to open her eyes, and as soon as he touches her neck, she calls him Daddy, Daddy. Zian was looking at her as if he was going to kill her. But when he hesitates for a second, she snuggles up and says, it's love. The poor boy realizes he's a goner, as he notices how warm she is. He picks her up, arms and holds her, saying that it seems they'll have to find a solution for this now. He tells Kieran that they will take care of her, but Kieran isn't very enthusiastic about it. The scene then shifts to the family castle. Krans' mother is there, wondering what she's going to do. She couldn't let that damn Sean walk free and be a danger to her son. That's when Sel shows up and calls for his mother. He says that if something is bothering her, she just has to tell him. But she walks away, saying that she's fine and nothing is worrying her. However, as soon as she closes the door, he tells Kelly to report the information. The man says they found the bodies of some dead knights in the forest, and the only survivor went to the capital with Zian. Are you sure the person who ordered the attack was Duchess Margaret? Also, they lost contact with an agent at the academy who had been passing information about him. He says that apparently the man hasn't learned anything from his brother. The fool is trembling, realizing that the man is disappointed. Are you sure it's him? He's not the type of person to keep those who disappoint him around, afraid of being eliminated. He shouts, saying he will investigate it himself. He swears he will never disappoint him again. He places a hand on the man and says it's impressive how passionate Kelly is about his work, and with that, he leaves, saying he's sure his brother is hiding something. Back at the academy, Siri rushes in. Hey, our boy is there with Kieran, feeding the dragon with a baby bottle, asking what she's doing there. Siri wants to know why there's a baby in the dorm. The protagonist says it's a rather long story. She cuts him off and says the explanation can wait because they have important matters to deal with. She says it seems our boy has been busy causing trouble. Then she shows him that a duel with Lizeth has been approved and asks why he isn't trying to keep a low profile. And he's doing something like this. Was the boy trying to attract as much attention as possible? Zihan is confused that the guy recently filed a formal document to set up this duel. Seth, Kieran asks what the big deal is. They're just two 11-year-old kids playing. However, our boy knows that Seth isn't just any 11-year-old and asks when the fight will take place. That's when they tell him it will be in 2 hours, and there he is, thinking this was way too soon. Seth welcomes him, saying he's been waiting for this moment. However, our boy doesn't seem too thrilled. Seth says he wanted a free-for-all, but they only allow swordsmanship and magic, and asks if Zihan will be using magic by any chance. As soon as our boy says no, Seth says he's not really disappointed and lunges forward for a slash, saying he wants to see what the protagonist can do. However, he seems calm. He's just thinking about how fast this guy is, considering his size, but attacks that rely purely on physical strength are easy to dodge. With a simple flick of his sword, Seth's attack is deflected to the ground. Zian starts to move, saying that an opponent like this is defeated with sophistication and precision. However, the prince says no. He won't give him any chances. The swords clash and Seth feels the pressure on his arm. Zian was able to use a good amount of his strength to counterattack and how he was blocking such a large sword with just a rapier. Suddenly, Seth is behind him and goes for a strike on the back of his neck, but out of nowhere, Zian sheathes his sword and grabs the fool by the legs. The poor guy is confused, wondering if this bastard has eyes in the back of his head, but as he's about to hit the ground, he manages to get a hand down and barely saves himself. He uses the momentum to almost land a kick on Zian. Seth is impressed that the kid found a counterattack in that situation. The audience is wide-eyed, wondering if these two are even human. Seth is just smiling. He starts laughing, saying that he was truly defeated with the sword, but now he will put it all on the line and do whatever it takes to win. Zian says he's looking forward to it, although he thinks this will be exhausting. However, Seth insists, saying he hopes Zian goes all out too. His aura begins to expand, shattering the ground beneath him. Someone calls out Zian's name and says that it has now begun. A man with a beard in the audience says that they have finally started to use magic. The students competing in both swordsmanship and magic have shown to have good spirit. Siri, who is standing next to him, says that it's clear Zian was the winner in swordsmanship. They know Seth has a high-class physique, while Zian is S-class. The swordsmanship duel was decided from the start. However, physical aptitude is just a basic element when it comes to high-level magic, and from what he knows, Seth has level 3 magic, the highest among the first years. He wants to see how Zian will respond to this. Siri, however, is furious, wondering why this bastard is drawing so much attention. Suddenly, a hand starts to emerge from the ground. It's Seth's sand grip. He prepares a strike and Zian realizes it's time to use magic. He easily dodges the first attack, however, he seems to trip on something from Seth's move, who warns him that he won't escape. A sequence of attacks keeps coming at him, but he avoids them easily. Seth then activates Desert Fang, a mound of sand emerges from the ground, and suddenly it looks like Zian is surrounded. He knows that Seth has at least level 3 magic. The poor guy took a classic barrage, but as soon as the smoke cleared, there he was, perfectly fine. One of the things he realized is that Seth could easily use level 4 magic. The problem is that defeating him would put him in a complicated situation. Seth then asks how long Zian plans to keep dodging attacks. Obviously, Zian wonders if Seth expected him to just take a hit to the face. Angry, Seth says that Zian is just a student and that a warrior must never run from his destiny. Confused, Zian says that as far as he knows, they are both students. At that, the idiot starts going crazy and activates a sandstorm. The old man is watching closely, while Siri, who looks scared, wonders why he's using level 4 magic. Seth launches an attack towards Zian, saying he wants to see if he can dodge this one. Our boy just stands still and says, "Alright, I'll take this one." Meanwhile, someone grabs the baby bottle. It's Julkin, saying it's a good thing he has experience raising children. He then had a tough time taking care of all his younger siblings, but he never imagined that experience would save him now. He then calls the princess and says it's time to eat, but he's suddenly startled. The little one seems to have grown quite a bit already. Back in the arena, during Seth's attack, he was enclosed in a blue orb. However, the orb was starting to crack. Oh, I get it now. It was a protection so that no one else would get hurt during the battle. But now, it's breaking. Oscar, the one responsible for the barrier, can't understand how a student is doing all this. Zurike tells the chancellor that it's better to call off the duel. However, he says he wants to wait because he feels that something is about to happen. Qian then activates a secret art of the Aboit Sphere, and, of course, Zurike didn't want him to use something like that. Suddenly, Seth's sandstorm seems to be getting absorbed. The professor laughs, saying that the boy is quite impressive. Meanwhile, Zurike wants to kill him for letting everyone see this. Seth's attack keeps being absorbed and the sphere continues to grow, until after a while the match is called. The fool is left confused, not understanding what just happened, and the people in the audience wonder where all that power disappeared to. No one has any idea what that black energy sphere was. In the middle of the arena, Zian asks Seth if he still wants to continue, but the poor guy is exhausted. He falls to his knees, saying he can't believe he lost. He lost in swordsmanship, and he lost in magic. At that moment, it was pure depression. Poor thing. Zian starts to feel bad for crushing the boy's spirit. But then Seth slams the ground and says he's fine. He was getting tired of beating weaklings anyway. Now his motivation to keep training is restored. Then he holds out his hand and says he's looking forward to training with him again, and next time Zian will have to accept the challenge. Cheon, of course, says no, that he's not interested at all. The scene changes, Cheon talking about how dragons develop faster than other creatures, but overnight, it seems the girl had turned 6 years old. The girl is already calling him dad. Cheon knows that at this rate she'll soon be the same age as him, and he tries to explain that he only looked away from her for a second, and suddenly this happened. Man, he knows it's going to be difficult to raise her there. Someone mentions that a time will come when he can no longer hide her. It's Sarik, who says she can help hide the magic sword, but a dragon like this is something completely different, especially since he keeps drawing attention to himself, like today. Hirame is lying on the sofa, sleeping peacefully, not wanting to deal with anything. They are just looking at the little dragon girl. Sarike is saying that she's growing terribly fast, how she grew so much while he was fighting. Sarik then says that she knew he was up to something, but bringing a creature like this home is completely different. Our boy tells her not to worry, because Julkin said he would take care of the girl. Besides, the place already has a barrier, so she and Kieran wouldn't be detected. That's when Sarik hands him a letter and says that this will only be possible if he stops causing trouble. Our boy looks at it and says that it's a reward, a pretty bad one for winning that duel, but she just leaves the room, telling him to stop getting into trouble. It would be terrible if he ended up enraging a certain person. Julkin then asks what it was, and our boy says it's a warning. They want to expel them for misconduct. The little dragon says, that can't happen to Dad. Otherwise, they'll all end up begging on the streets. Zian is confused, wondering when this brat learned to say things like that. He pets her and says they don't need to worry for now. Julkin says it would be dangerous if he were forced to return home. Zian replies that they don't need to worry because it was just a small competition. After all, he noticed that the letter came directly from the Chancellor and not from the administration. That means the man wants to talk to him. I'm not sure if this was in the past, but I think it was. The Chancellor asks if he really wants to join the Order of the Light. Zian agrees, and the man says he doesn't think it's suitable for him. Seeing the boy's expression, he says he's sure Zian knows it, so he decides to give him some advice and tells him to keep it in his heart. He's sure that Zian wouldn't find any benefit in joining the Order of the Light. His fate would be suffering or something even worse. However, one thing is certain. Joining that order wouldn't be worth it because that's the life of a puppet. That was the conversation he had with the old man in his past life, when he was summoned once, which makes him wonder what curse the old man will throw at him this time. Julkin then comments that the girl might deserve a name. They can't keep calling her just Little One. Zian simply replies with Nana. Nana. Julkin was about to tell him to think a little more, but the girl says it's perfect. She likes the name Nana because it's the same forwards and backwards, and now she is Nana Verte. She is spinning around Zian, who wonders how she knows his last name. The scene then changes to the Chancellor's office. He is pensive and impatient for Zian Verte. He already knew the boy had great potential, but he saw him absorb a level 4 magic attack all by himself. Someone with so much power is a must-have, but the strangest thing is that Zian didn't even seem to be trying, which makes him wonder what this boy is really capable of. Zian knows that Candel was the master of Emperor Dayuni and Princess Diana. He is one of the few 9-star mages on this continent, and after the death of Princess Diana, he decided to dedicate himself to cultivating new talents at the Royal Academy. But what confuses Zian is that he always saw this man as a pacifist. So why in his past life did he suddenly get involved in the affairs of the Empire's throne? He stops for a second and is sure of it. That man was as treacherous as ever. Hitting the wall, he notices it has a barrier. Not just a barrier, but a 9-star one, even though he knew Zian was coming. It seemed the man wanted to test him, and Candle was smiling, curious to see how the boy would deal with the barrier. Alright, okay, Candle murmurs as Zian comes through the window, lands in front of him, and calls out to the Chancellor, introducing himself as Zian Verte, a freshman. The old man notes that the boy did the obvious thing. but he has to admit defeat. Then he asks if Zian received the warning about the competition. Zian says that yes, he received the notice from the Chancellor, but he realized a few things. As soon as he saw the barrier, he says that so-called warning was just an excuse to test him. Kandel says that's correct and that his method was quite common but undeniably effective. With that aside, he says he won't withdraw the warning unless Sean convinces him. Sean then asks if he can ask a question, inquiring if the old man values the prosperity of the empire or the honor of his family more. Kandel remains silent, saying it's a bold question but that neither is any of Sean's business. Sean then asks if, hypothetically, Emperor Dayuni and the third princess were to show ambition for the throne, would Kandel just stand by and not support either side? The old man replies that such audacity is not only reckless, but also foolish. Meanwhile, Sean recalls that in his past life, this man told him he would become a puppet, but right now Kandel was no different. Sean remembers that in his past life, the Chancellor played a major role in helping Prince Lionella to ascend the throne, a prince known for his violent nature and for killing all his siblings. The day the Chancellor questioned those deaths, he was imprisoned for treason. Kandel slams his hand on the table and says it's nonsense, asking if Sean really believes the peace built over the last 100 years could fall apart so easily. He thought the boy was talented, but apparently he's just an ignorant child. Sean ignores the insult and says that both Kandel's daughter and the second princess have already died from illness. Furthermore, the third and fourth princes are forces that cannot be ignored, and Empress Cassandra's faction is starting to crave power. They would stop at nothing to take control of the empire. After all, the peace in this land is barely holding together, and when it all collapses, it will also mean the end of the academy. Kandel is stunned that an 11-year-old boy knows the entire current political landscape, then asks what Sean's intention was in saying all this. Sean says he is there to propose a deal that will help Kandel, peace for his family and peace for the academy, and all he asks for in return is for Kandel to remove the warning. The old man laughs, making Sean feel like a fool. Kandel summons a magic circle and asks what power Sean plans to use to solve this. He points his finger down, saying Sean will be crushed along with his arrogance. The chains of judgment appear and lift Sean up. Sean immediately realizes the Chancellor wants to test him again. Kandel says that even though Sean may be powerful, escaping a skill like this won't be easy, remarking that the boy is getting too confident. However, Sean asks for permission to show what he's capable of. At that moment, the old man is surprised. He is shocked. Sean activates an adaptation of the Boyd's Fit. The chains seem to be absorbed. The old man can't believe that a level 1 skill is consuming his magic. The energy keeps being absorbed, and the sphere continues to grow. Meanwhile, the old man wonders what the limits of this boy's potential are. Finally, the attack dissipates along with the chains. Sean asks if he has proven enough. Kandel immediately agrees to remove the warning, but says he doubts. That's all Sean wants. Our boy says yes, because all he wants is for there to be no problems at the academy. The old man asks if he's sure, and Sean says yes. The truth is that Sean really doesn't want to see the academy collapse again. Meanwhile, in the city at sunset, someone mentions that he has bought a lot of candy, but that's what happens when there's a child at home. It's Julkin, who is happy just imagining Nana eating all of it. Suddenly, he feels a chill. The place is eerily quiet, and he assumes it's just his imagination. Yulkin walks slowly, looking around, until he feels a presence in the shadows and demands that it show itself. Someone comes out of the darkness. And Yulkin is so surprised that he drops the candy. Man, I thought he would react, but the poor guy just disappeared. Sean had promised the Chancellor that he would attend all classes after the meeting, but right now, he's tired and bored. It's tedious to study things he learned more than 30 years ago, 10 years. Since he has no missions to do, he considers going to train, but then someone appears behind him asking where he thinks he's going. It's Aaron, who says the lesson isn't over yet. Sean lies, saying he's just going to the bathroom, but she calls him a liar because she knows that's not the direction of the bathroom. Meanwhile, a guy named Resimus is standing behind her, calling her Lady Aaron. Our boy then asks if she allows him to address her by her personal name. She tells him to stop changing the subject, but says yes. Although only in private, however. She wants to know why Sean is still so formal with her. Our boy replies that since she is royalty and he is just a simple citizen of the empire, he can't be too familiar with her. Then, someone approaches in the middle of their discussion, calls out to Erin, and suddenly, she looks surprised. Sean looks to the side and sees a guy on the stairs saying it's been a long time since they've seen each other. It's brother Fabian and brother Nerbian. Apparently someone really loves good. Erin greets them and they ask why she's surrounded by commoners or if those people are her servants. Sean knows that these guys from House Neffel always look down on the princess. Then they ask if he is the so-called Sean Berta guy. Our boy simply says it's a pleasure to meet them and introduces himself as the youngest of House Berta. The guys reply that he doesn't need to introduce himself because they saw the duel and it was incredible. He would surely be invited to the next social gathering. They say they should talk more and that they shouldn't remain strangers. Sean notices that Erin is being completely ignored. The guys place their hands on his shoulder and tell him that this is an opportunity few people get. Erin just stands there in silence until Nairobian puts his hand on Erin's shoulder and says that, obviously, 1, someone like her shouldn't get her hopes up. 2, the so-called princess should know her place. 3, as the guys walk away, Resimus asks if they are really princes. 5, Erin confirms that they are and comments, as the saying goes, blood is thicker than water. But Sean says he doesn't think that's what's happening in this situation. To them, it's clear she is worse than a stranger. Water or blood are insignificant when it comes to power. That's what she needs to understand. The fact that they act so coldly towards her shows that they have some fear or wariness. He tells her not to be affected by it, but the poor girl is already blushing. Our boy leaves, while she stands there blushing from his words of encouragement. Back at home, Nana is messing up the bed, but Sean finds it strange that neither Kieran nor Julkin are around. Kieran then appears, asking if he doesn't see that the girl is sleeping. She then asks what he wants from her. Our boy tells her to find Julkin. She looks confused and asks if he thinks she's some kind of dog, to go fetch him. But suddenly she starts sniffing the air, saying she smells blood. In a nearby alley, Julkin is thrown to the ground. The attackers laugh and a blonde man says he should have answered as soon as they called him. Now things have gotten complicated. It's ironic that the kid only had one night and that he was so bad at his job. The man then announces that it's time to cut Julkin into pieces and deliver him as a gift to his master. He could thank his boss later. This was the price he would pay for messing with Beret Ruimi. However, from the ground, Julkin simply says, "Okay." The guy is confused and asks what he means. Even while beaten up, Julkin tells them to just get it over with. Beret then tells everyone that it seems Julkin has lost his mind. It's time to end this by killing him. But suddenly, from above the alley, someone asks what they are doing. Man, if it's who I think it is, I guess they're all about to go to their next life. It's him, Sean, with Karam in hand, saying that apparently this was Rumi's doing. From the ground, Julkin sees that it's our boy, and seeing the state of his friend, Sean says, "Looks like they beat up my poor boy." Beret, however, seems excited that Sean showed up on his own. This was exactly what he had planned. Sean simply replies that he's looking forward to seeing what he'll do. Sean lunges at the men, activating the 8th stance of the violent assault. A tap on one guy's neck, a punch to another's forehead. Everyone in the alley starts getting thrown into the air. Beret can't believe that all the men he hired can't beat this kid. What kind of monster is this? He wonders. He starts cursing at Sean and says he will kill him, but before he can use a spell, he takes a knee to the stomach and is sent flying. The poor guy hits the wall, and Sean says that Beret hasn't changed a bit. He asks him if tormenting the weak on a regular basis is so much fun for him. Beret, however, says that what he does in his spare time is none of Sean's business and asks, "What are you gonna do, kill me?" Sean remembers that in his past life, this guy, the eldest son of House Ruimi, became the most powerful figure in the kingdom of Duran. He was an infamous figure who would beat his own servants to death and burn small animals just for entertainment. Until one day his madness crossed the line. He mercilessly killed a classmate and claimed he was just practicing magic. Zian exposed this, and the Purge Squad gave Zian the mission to eliminate him. But that day, Zian would never forget what he saw when he arrived at that mansion. In the man's basement, there was a pile of servants' corpses. Naturally, Zian tortured him to give him a painful death. But even as he suffered, the man kept smiling and telling Zian to just finish him. That was because he was already bored of his own games. Now Zian realizes that killing that man in the past was no punishment for a monster like him. After all, he had already done everything he wanted. It was a completely inadequate price, considering the lives he had affected. With this, Zian grabs Barit by the mouth, and with a mana orb, Barit asks what he is doing and warns that Zian won't get away with this because he is the future of the Garen kingdom, but Zian just grabs him by the neck and says he loves to talk a lot. He warns him that his biggest mistake wasn't insulting him. He could say whatever he wanted behind his back, but what he should have never done was hurt one of Zian's servants. 1. Barit starts writhing in pain on the ground. 2. A strange purple aura begins to emanate from him, and someone is watching everything from above. 3. Oritzel's informant, who says he needs to report this urgently. 4. Surely this would interfere with their plans. 5. But then Sarik puts a knife to his neck and says she found the one who was following her boy. Our boy approaches Yulkin, who apologizes, saying he brought shame upon his lord. Seeing him beaten up, Zian thinks it's pitiful to see the poor guy in that state. Then he asks why Yulkin, as a servant, got involved in a fight he knew he couldn't win. Winning, was that his idea of loyalty? Zian says he understands what Yulkin wanted to achieve, but the best choice in this case was to run away. He didn't need Yulkin to risk his life in the name of loyalty, so he shouldn't do anything so reckless again. Poor Yulkin, broken and defeated, just apologizes. Our boy then says that the leader can show himself. Suddenly, a group of members of the Purge Squad appears, asking if it was that obvious. Zian says it's obvious when so many people show up together. Then Sarik appears saying she brought a great. She throws Kellen to the ground and Zian immediately recognizes him. He is known as the one who had been following him recently. She seems impressed that Zian already had information on him. He says he already had an idea. She replies that, as always, he is highly capable. Not only is he much stronger than any other mist assassin, but he is also able to negotiate directly with the Chancellor, plus he has the mental fortitude to handle the magic sword. Sarik really deserves the title of successor. But the problem is that she keeps causing trouble. Zian simply replies that he took note of all that, but warns that he will always refuse to be just a victim. Whoever harms those close to him will be crushed. Sarik interprets this as him telling her that he will protect those around him and says she understands. Kellen then says he is leaving and trusts the successor's decisions, but before he goes, he reminds him not to forget to deal with that person. Kellen then asks what Zian plans to do with him and if he is going to kill him, but Zian says he has learned that death is too easy. Desperate, Kellen says that if Zian thinks he's going to talk, he can forget it. But Zian replies that he already knows Kellen is Sel's right-hand man. The poor guy is left wondering how this brat already has that information. But Zian remembers Kellen very well from his past life, always by his brother's side, and the envy he felt when they were close during the wars. However, all things considered, Kellen is undoubtedly a problem. Perhaps the best option would be to kill him now. The problem is that doing so would send certain information to his brother, which means it's time to use this guy to execute his plan. A desperate Kevin asks what Zian is doing. Zian activates a psychic clone creation. A cloud of mist begins to enter the mouth and eyes of Kellen. The scene then cuts to a castle. A man rushes in attacking Kelly. She manages to block and says that he'll have to do better than that. But the man appears behind her and places a sword to her neck, announcing his victory. Aaron tells him to stop calling her Her Highness and admits that she really can't beat him. He apologizes to Her Highness and she tells him to just call her Aaron, but then they hear a loud thud nearby. And Aaron says that someone is training hard. It's Julkin, getting a punch in the stomach, a kick to the back of the knee, and being thrown away. Zian is impressed that, considering he's just a regular worker, Julkin can take so much punishment. Also, he has good stamina, so maybe in the future he can be useful. Zian asks if Julkin is okay, and spitting blood? He says he's perfectly fine. Zian knows the training has to be tough because at any moment he could be attacked, like what happened with Barit. Jolkin then comments about Kellen and asks if he won't cause any trouble, to which Zian says there's nothing to worry about because now Kellen is on his side. The scene then flashes back to the moment Zian absorbed that energy. Jolkin was right there, watching everything as the body fell to the ground. Zian thought to himself that it was exhausting, since he hadn't done that in a long time. The psychic shadow is a level 9 dark attribute. It creates a new personality in the target's shadow, allowing him to control him. Even in his past life, he only used it once. Then he asks Kelling to introduce himself. Kelling responds that he is Kelling Diegos, a guardian of the Knight of Belize. Diegos had received orders to come to this city and observe the Lord Zian. Zian is pleased with how obedient Kelling is and asks him who his master is. Kellen says that he originally served Lord Excel, but now he wishes to serve Lord Zian. Our boy says, that's fine. Kellen's first mission is to return to Excel and report everything Zian instructs him to. Kellen accepts and says that he will obey the orders. Kellen seems motivated, and Zian is terrified of how well that spell worked. Then, Aaron shows up and asks if he is training with the knight. Our boy responds humbly that yes, but honestly, he could have said he was there to play cards. She tells him she's been practicing swordsmanship with Resimus since what happened recently. Zian remembers what she's referring to. Everyone found out that Baritha Rimi was found beaten up in front of the infirmary. But the worst part wasn't that he couldn't talk about what happened, but that he could no longer use magic. What Zian finds strange is Resimus's reaction. He thought that Resimus would be happy about what happened. Suddenly, Nana appears flying through the sky, shouting for our boy, or rather, she is literally flying. They both look up and Zian wonders what is happening, considering he left Kira in charge. Of course, the lazy girl was sleeping. No. Aaron grabs Nana, wanting to know where this crazy kid came from. Meanwhile, Nana keeps screaming that she found her daddy. Aaron is confused by this whole daddy thing, but Nana is clearly pointing at Zian. Now the girl is shocked, wanting to know since when and with whom this happened, while Zian, the dummy, has no idea how he's going to explain himself. Some time passes and he has already explained everything. Aaron is relieved to find out she's not his biological daughter. Still, she didn't expect the guy to have such a sensitive side. On the other hand, Jolkin is worried because they would be kicked out of the academy if this were discovered, but Aaron tells him not to worry, that she would never tell anyone. Zian is impressed by her promise. Dude, you should have made her promise before explaining everything, right? Aaron looks up and reassures him, telling him not to worry. After all, it's not like she has any other friends besides them. What a way to kill the mood! Zian asks Aaron why she made the promise, and she says it's because she feels sorry for the little girl. Someone who is neither dragon nor human wouldn't be accepted anywhere. She was lucky to find him. But, that being said, Aaron declares that she'll have to visit his dorm a few times. Not to see him, of course. But because she wants to visit Nana, Zian says that he is cool with that, but everything has to be kept completely secret. Silly Aaron lies awake thinking this is a secret just between the two of them. It's actually a secret between 5 people, but she's okay with that. She leaves and Resumu waves goodbye, but when Aaron looks back, she feels something strange. She's excited, realizing she seems to have gotten closer to Zian. Back at home, however, Zian is still getting an earful from Kieran. She tells him to just tell her everything, including that he has a magic sword. Zian tells her to shut up, pointing out that this all happened because she was sleeping. Jolkin suggests they should take Nana out more often. Maybe she ran away because she's been cooped up for too long. Zian says it might not be a bad idea. Then we see 2 people flying with wings. A man with white hair notices something strange, something odd, and stops in mid-air. The woman beside him asks, "What's wrong?" addressing him as Lord Lucian. He replies that he smells weakness, asking where they are. And she says they haven't reached Reuben yet, but they're close. Lucian realizes they are near the Reuben Academy and says they'll have to delay their return. That's because he feels the presence of something that shouldn't exist. Meanwhile, in an open area near Reuben, Jolkin warns Nana not to wander off too far because it's dangerous. Zian thinks it was a good idea, since she's having fun and they're far from Reuben. Here, their secret is safe enough and she can get some fresh air. Kieran teases him, saying he seems to be enjoying playing house, suggesting they make the princess the mother. But suddenly, they all feel a chill. Kieran immediately warns that something is approaching, and Lukian says that it's an abomination. Julkin yells for Nana to be careful, barely saving her from a laser. Zian sees the two of them are safe and tells everyone to get behind him. The two descend from the sky and ask what they are doing there. Dragons, superior beings, and two of them at that. Lukian then says that he now knows where the stench is coming from. The existence of that thing is disgusting. The red-headed dragon Catalina asks how such an abomination could exist. She questions if Sean is the owner of this half-breed, and since he also possesses a magic sword, Kira. Mista is furious for being treated as a simple object, but Catalina tells her to shut up, as she is now just a human's toy. Jeremy, however, retorts by asking if Catalina is looking to die. As Jeremy prepares to attack, Lukian stops her, explaining that he has no interest in this fight, as they don't like fighting inferior creatures. However, they must take the half-breed girl with them, a half-human, half-dragon existence. She would surely be valuable for study. Lukian says that if they hand her over, everyone's lives will be spared, but Sean tells everyone to shut up. Lukian can't believe the boy's audacity. Sean repeats, telling the crocodile next to him to be quiet. Obviously Lukian, 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 obviously Lukian. Sean activates the 9th stance of the Black Mist, manifesting the magic sword. I'm having a harder time pronouncing these huge spell names every time, but there's our boy, looking like a burnt matchstick, ready to take them on. 2. Both dragons recognize that as the power of the exiles. 3. Lukian comments that the day is full of surprises, but in the end, the boy is nothing more than an inferior creature. But before he can finish the thought, Sean is already at his side, leaving Lukian shocked, not knowing when he appeared. He gets hit with a flurry of stabs and is thrown back. Lukian says the boy is a reckless human and lunges at him with a slash. He extends his hand, activating a shockwave. A magic circle forms over Sean, and he takes the attack head-on, but Sean activates one of the smoke techniques, reappearing behind Lukian. He conjures another storm of swords. Lukian forces Catalina to intervene to defend him. Lukian tells her not to interfere, saying this fight is not hers, but she simply reassures him, saying he has nothing to worry about. There's no way she can lose. The flame barrier she's using has been refined for over 1,000 years, so it's impossible for a human who doesn't even live 100 years to break through it until Sean activates the 8 petals. We're back at Mount Hua. He unleashes 8 slashes at the barrier, completely shattering it. Catalina is left wondering how that's possible. Before she can recover, Sean lands a clean slash on her. She disintegrated. Did she really die? Man, Sean is pissed. 1. Lukian, confused, asks what Sean is. Someone with mere mist powers shouldn't be this strong. He demands an answer, but when Sean doesn't reply, Lukian says that in that case, he will treat him as a serious opponent. Sean has noticed that Lukian is activating the polymorph ability. From the magic circle, the dragon begins to emerge. The man is returning from his human form to his natural one. Sharp eyes, huge wings, the beast is here. Lukian lets out a deafening roar in Sean's face, but Sean jumps at him, saying he knows this is the moment when Lukian is most vulnerable. He's already on the dragon's wings, and Lukian wonders what he's thinking. Noticing Sean's position, Lukian realizes the boy knows his weaknesses, vulnerabilities of the polymorphism skill. Zian attacks directly in the center of Lukian's forehead. Lukian calls him reckless, but he's already thinking of escaping. But Sean smiles and says it's too late. He activates the giant tree root technique directly on Lucian's head. A wave of black energy spreads through the dragon's body. Lucian writhes in the sky, and sometime later, hey, we see Julkin calling out to Zian. Julkin looks horrified and covers Nana's eyes. What's wrong? Zian has already cut up the dragon and is roasting its meat. He says that dragon meat is precious, and Nana exclaims that she wants some. Meanwhile, Sean's brother hears about Sean working with a mysterious group. Kevin explains that the agents they sent were killed by this unknown force. Eshel asks if that's all, and Kelly confirms it. Eshel finds it strange. When this boy left, he was full of anxiety and fear, but now he seems calm and serene, like a completely different person. Eshel simply says he understands. But he has one more question to ask. When Eshel looks at him, Kelly realizes that Eshel has figured something out. Suddenly, Kelly places his hand on his chest and says, "May the grace of Lumendel be with me." Eshel smiles and thanks him for the answer. He tells Kelly not to worry too much, but advises him to be cautious. Kelly, however, knows there's no turning back now that Eshel is starting to suspect him. At least, he needs to make sure he doesn't become a problem for Sean. Leaving the room, Kevin runs into a maid. He remembers she was the girl who took care of Zian. He asks what she is doing there, and Eshel replies that he invited her. He asks if her name is Emily, and she confirms it. Then Eshel says he wanted to ask her a small favor. "Girl, you'd better run while you still can." Meanwhile, at the dragon's base, someone asks if it's true that Luke and Nikita of the line disappeared. Another confirms that their energy vanished, and now there's a void in their ranks, but it's strange that the energy of an 8-star dragon would disappear like that. Judging by their empty stones, it's clear they were likely defeated. However, when flying over the area, all they found were the remains of a battle. One of them asks, how is it possible that someone killed those two without leaving a trace of magic? The green crystal says that's only possible if the killer has the dark attribute, but as far as he knows, there's only one person in Candelos strong enough to kill those two. However, that person doesn't possess the dark attribute. This means there's someone powerful out there they know nothing about. The man says the only person in the Royal Academy with the dark attribute is a boy named Zian Verte. Furthermore, there are rumors that he faced a dark dragon on the front lines and survived. If that's true, he could also be involved in the disappearance of the two dragons. The green crystal says this is a strange coincidence and advises vigilance. Asterisk, asterisk. I can't rent it. Asterisk, asterisk. He instructs someone named Luna Bryan River to send his granddaughter. It's fascinating to see this conversation between the crystals and still have no idea who is who. Meanwhile, in the royal dormitory, Aaron, of course, wastes no time visiting our boy and even brings a cake, saying it's a gift for Nana, who is delighted. But man, she didn't just bring a cake, she brought a whole cart full of gifts. Sitting at the table, Zian thinks that, at least for now, they're getting along and everything is calm. But if the dragons can really detect Nana, it's only a matter of time before they attack again. However, he won't let anyone close to him get hurt in this life. He has decided to live for himself and, of course, to destroy Eshel and all her plans. Suddenly, Arin looks over her shoulder and asks why he has such a big smile on his face, wondering what's making him so happy. He replies that he just had a great idea. The scene changes to the garden of the Verte house. Someone says it's the first time they've seen him since graduation. The prince is Prince Luenel Sibelos, who comments on how good Eshel looks. The fool replies that it's all thanks to His Majesty, the prince. He then tells her to stop wasting time in the outskirts. He's heard she's been moving around the continent. Eshel smiles and says he's very worried about what she's doing, but the prince asks if he isn't worried that she might be a threat to him. Eshel, irritated, asks if the prince doesn't lack discretion, but Sibelos says there's no need for discretion between the two of them, then asks if Zian isn't her brother, explaining that his father is interested in the boy and is even considering marrying him to Aaron. He doesn't understand why Eshel would care about this, considering that girl is useless. However, Eshel tells him not to be so quick to judge. She might gain some influence and interest, becoming useful. The prince replies that he likes how productive their conversations always are. Their relationship is quite peculiar, isn't it? They might end up with a kiss. The prince even offers Eshel a glass of wine, but Eshel notices that the prince's knight seems to be someone new she's never heard of. The prince explains that he's a gem he found while passing through the slums. Eshel examines the man and comments that even among gems, this one seems to be of the highest quality. The man introduces himself as Boris Leem and offers his services. Suddenly, 2 years have passed just like that. Zian mentions that he kept a low profile, and just when he felt he had adapted to the academy, that's when Eckel returned. Elsewhere in the castle, someone knocks on a door. Eschel had come to visit Candle, who comments that it's been a long time since they last saw each other. He asks if she enjoyed her trip. She says yes, mentioning that she visited the city of Pruana. The Chancellor comments that it's a place where humans aren't very welcome. She explains that it took her a whole year just to start adapting. However, she wanted to understand the harmony he always talked about. He always said that wherever she went, prosperity would follow her. That's why she's careful about where she belongs. Candle doesn't fully understand her point, but he apparently gets it. As he says, she seems to have reached a conclusion. She confirms this, stating that she wants to join the Order of the Light, Chancellor. He comments that she seems determined to preserve the family name. She replies that it's a burden someone has to carry. She's worried about her younger brothers, especially about Sean, whom she describes as extremely shy. The old man bursts out laughing, leaving her confused. He comments that the idea of Sean being shy is quite funny. That's when the boy himself appears, saying that it's very insensitive of his dear Chancellor. They look back and see our boy walking outside. Man, I thought he might look older, but no, he just grew taller. He looks like he's holding in a fart, but says he missed his sister. She comments that he has changed a lot since they last saw each other. He's already as tall as her and will soon be taller than her. He jokes that she must have shrunk, but she tells him to stop making up lies. It was the 2nd of July, 1988, a date she would always remember, because it was the last time he saw Els alive. What's gonna happen, man? She mentions that the semester is over and asks if he will visit home. He replies that without her there, there's no one to welcome him. She seems confused and asks if that's the reason he hasn't been back in 2 years. He knows the real reason is the presence of that guy and, of course, the Duchess, who wants to kill him at any moment. The worst part is that his father does nothing to stop it. Going back home would basically be suicide. Stop lying, man! You killed 2 dragons and you're afraid of a Duchess? But okay, I believe the part about Cell. Els then asks if he gets along with Krans. He replies that it's impossible. She asks why. And he says it's obvious from the way Krans always treated him, always trying to take his life. Apparently, Els had no idea about any of this. Jolkin steps forward and confirms the information. Sean explains that Jolkin is his guardian. Poor Els, who is only now realizing this, thinking he was just some lunatic following him around because he was so weak. Sometime later, she finally understands what happened. She mentions that while all this was happening, she was in Pruana, completely unaware. Sean tells her not to worry. Since the problem was created by the Duchess and Krans, they are the real villains. But Els's expression changes. He asks her what's wrong, and she suddenly reacts. Sean then asks if Els has told anyone else about this. And she says that it's all in the past. Krans never showed any remorse. Suddenly, Els hugs him. Sean cries as she tells him he doesn't have to carry such a heavy burden alone, that he can always count on her whenever he needs to. Sean says that from now on he will protect her, but suddenly she says she can't stay any longer because something has come up, and she needs to take care of it. However, she tells him to take care of himself while she's away. At this moment, Jolkin feels something strange. Els gives him a big hug, thanking him for taking care of her brother. Jolkin was about to protest, saying he doesn't take care of this troublemaker, but Sean quickly tells him to stay quiet. Some time passes and it seems Els is leaving, although Sean is smiling. He knows it's been a long time since he saw her so serious. The scene changes to the past, where Sean is taking hits from a sword. It's Krans, asking if he's tired yet and calling him a motherless bastard, ordering him to get up. Zian, frustrated, says there's no need for him to say such things, since he already won. But he gets another punch to the face, and Krans tells him to fall. The beating continues until someone shows up and tells Krans to stop. It's him who demands to know what he thinks he's doing and orders him to apologize to Zian. Immediately, Zian knows from the expression on his face that this is going to cause chaos at home. But maybe this is a good way to reveal the truth about the people around him, and somehow change his destiny. Someone hands him some letters saying they're for him. Jolkin mentions that one is from the academy and another is from the cleaning staff. Zian takes the black letter and says that the other must be from the imperial court. Jolkin checks it and confirms it. Both he and Kieran seem interested in what the court wants. Zian simply says it's an invitation to a banquet, and the black letter, of course, is an assassination order. It's for the death of a man named Drian Nephelius, scheduled to happen at the banquet. 1. This shocked the entire kingdom, as the man is the emperor's younger brother. Kieran asks if he will go, and Zian says yes, because there are things he needs to handle. Meanwhile, he wonders why that damn woman gave him this mission, especially because in his past life it was assigned to someone else. Kieran notices that the banquet invitation came directly from Aelin. She jokes that Zian finally received a love letter. He immediately activates his sword manipulation, and the blade nearly hits her, making her fall flat on her face. At that moment, someone calls out, "Dad, I'm hungry." Jolkin looks surprised, and Zian asks what's wrong. But his own expression changes immediately. Let's not mention anything, but yes, she has grown. That is all. The scene changes to the outside of a castle, where someone runs to open the gate. It's Miss Ellis, apparently arriving at the estate. The butlers comment on her return, but she just wants to know where the Duchess is. The Duchess is peacefully reading a book until she hears a loud bang on the door. Ellis bursts in, and when the Duchess greets her, saying it's been a long time and asking how she's been, Ellis raises her hand and slaps her hard across the face. Everyone is shocked. And a butler asks why the guards aren't doing their job. From the floor, the Duchess asks if Ellis has lost her mind, but Ellis replies that the Duchess is the one who should be asking herself that question, especially since she tried to kill Zian. The Duchess is alarmed to learn that Ellis knows about this and, of course, denies it, claiming she would never do such a thing and asking if Ellis has proof. Ellis says that by asking for proof, the Duchess made everything perfectly clear. As the Duchess orders the guards to act, she keeps screaming, asking what they are waiting for, and ordering them to restrain Ellis. The guards lunge towards Ellis, apologizing as they do so. Well, this isn't going to end well for them, is it? Ellis dodges the first one, and knees him in the neck, activates a spiritual magic called Andin, and defeats them all. The Duchess trembles, seeing all the guards fall in the blink of an eye, telling Ellis not to come any closer, and asks why he is doing this. He simply replies that the Guardian of 100 has already confessed everything. The Duchess admits to receiving orders to kill the boy 2 years ago. The Duchess claims it is ridiculous for him to act based on the words of a mere servant, but he tells her to shut up, saying that she will have to face the consequences because everything will be reported to her father. Her time is up. Having said that, he leaves. The Duchess, however, thinks to herself that the foolish girl still does not understand anything. Duke Williers had no interest in anything except for that one son. She immediately sends a message to him, saying she knows about the assassination attempt and asks what the problem is. Surprised, Ellis tells her father that one of his children almost died. The Duke says he will not make excuses. He simply believed that Sean would survive. Ellis protests, saying it was extremely dangerous, as Sean was just a child fighting against 6 knights. He only survived because one of them decided to protect him. The Duke laughs and asks if she really believes that fake knight saved Sean. That man was nothing more than a simple laborer. Ellis questions if he is saying that Sean killed all those knights by himself. Her father approaches her and comments that she knows very little about her little brother, handing her a letter and telling her to check it. She asks what it is, and he explains that it is an invitation to the imperial banquet. He wants her to attend in his place. It would be a good opportunity for her to relax and stop worrying so much about Sean. He is much stronger than she imagines, and she will soon understand it. Slam! The door closes in her face. Ellis walks through the halls, wondering how she is supposed to not worry about her 13-year-old brother. It is then that someone calls out, "Miss Ellis!" She lights up upon seeing Cecilia, who welcomes her back. Cecilia runs to her and hugs her, asking how she managed to be away for so long, without even writing a letter. Cecilia Lien is a knight from the elite squad of the Order of the Light. From the very beginning, she has been Ellis's protector, teacher, and friend. Ellis then asks Cecilia what she thinks about a change of scenery. It is time for them both to head to the Imperial City. The scene changes to a carriage. Inside, Nana is looking out the window, exclaiming that she sees a small deer. The guys keep, insisting that she learn to hide her tail. She concentrates for a moment and everything seems to disappear. Sean thinks to himself that at least his life is a little easier when she can hide everything. He asks her if she remembers what he told her. She replies that she does, for now she is just his servant. Still, he is nervous, sure that she will cause some kind of trouble. Then something is heard outside. Sean asks Julkin what is happening, and Julkin reports that there are some mountain bandits. Man, look at these poor fools, guys. Go home. This won't end well for you. Julkin, go take care of them quickly. Nana asks what's going on, and Zian tells her it's nothing. Before the bandit can even say anything else, Julkin has already taken one down with a chop to the neck. The rest of the gang shouts for their leader and charges at Julkin, but he remains calm, activating a sequence of consecutive slashes. Ah, I recognize this reference. He's about to go bald. He sheaths his sword, and all the bandits are dead. He's now a force to be reckoned with. With that, Zian tells him to return to the carriage, and Julkin announces they are departing. Elsewhere, someone slams a sheet of paper on a desk, saying it's the list of all the guests for the banquet. Sarike thanks them and is asked if the plans shouldn't be postponed. Sarike replies, no, they must proceed because that man must die. The woman is curious to know why there's such an urgency to kill Dryaenophelius. Sarike explains that he is a vile predator who uses his power to harass married women. The sooner he dies, the better, and to top it all off, he's her fiancé. What a plot twist! Sarike then notices someone unusual on the guest list. A person with a body so frail she rarely attends classes, but an extremely rare genius with mastery of 20% of all attributes, Luna Brame River, the granddaughter of the master of the Duran Magic Academy. Sarike knows that Luna has been hidden from the world like a precious gem. So why is she exposing herself at this banquet? Her assistant explains that it was the master himself, Regions, who sent her. Sarike is not pleased, unsure of their plans. What she knows for sure is that something is bound to happen at this banquet, of course, right? Especially since she's planning to kill her fiancé. Well, not her, she's sending our boy. The scene changes to the city. As the group arrives, 1, Nana accidentally bumps into someone. 2, the man starts scolding her, asking what she thinks she's doing until she apologizes and asks what's wrong. 3, the man, if he knew her age, he wouldn't be smiling like that. He runs off. Nana comments on how kind all the people in this city are, while Zian just wants her to stay away from that guy. But it's clear Nana's problem is that she isn't suspicious of anyone. Then, Jules points to her eyes, asking Zian to look at them. Zian immediately notices the problem. Her pupils have turned black and she says she's hungry. When that happens, she starts emitting an aura that makes her easy to locate. Zian tells Julkin to take her to a restaurant immediately. Julkin grabs the girl and rushes off. A while later, the friends... She has already devoured about 80 dishes. Zian comments that at least he brought plenty of money, but then he feels a strange mana in the air. Someone approaches saying it's a pleasure to meet him and asks if he is the boy named Zian Verde. Here we go again. Zian is confused that she knows his name and asks her who she is. However, she just ignores him, sits down, and asks if he doesn't mind. Our boy tells her she responds. Then she introduces herself as Lunabai and says she's a new student at the academy. Xion thinks he's heard that name before. He says he doesn't pay much attention to the younger students, which is why he didn't know her. Luna replies that it's to be expected, since no one is as famous as he is. Meanwhile, Nana asks Julkin if she is Xion's friend, and he replies that he has no idea. But she doesn't seem very friendly. Luna comments that since he's accompanied by a knight, he must be an employee, and he's quite close to both of them. He had a much more attentive personality than she imagined. The protagonist simply replies that he sees no reason to eat separately from them. However, he's already realized that even though they've just met, she is praising him too much. So, what is her real reason for approaching him? At that moment, Luna asks if he's going to the Imperial banquet. He says yes and asks how she knows. She replies that it's obvious when someone from the academy comes to this place. She says she's happy to know they'll meet again at the banquet because she's also invited. At that moment, Xion realizes that, at the very least, She must have some way of. Suddenly, she stands up and says that unfortunately she has to leave, but that he should remember the name Luna well. And with that, she leaves, asking him not to forget it. It's then that Xion seems to remember this crazy girl. She's the granddaughter of the Grandmaster of the Magic Academy, which makes him wonder if that man sent her there. He remembers that in his past life, Luna died very young, while she was still a student at that place. Some said it was because her body was very delicate, but others were sure it was due to the experiments that she endured at the Magic Academy. The problem now is that he's getting involved with many people he didn't know in his past life, which means things will change even more in the future. And it also makes him wonder why it seems so many people are involved in this banquet. Sometime later, Bryn is fixing her hair, looks at Resimus, and asks how she looks. She gives her a thumbs up, saying she looks amazing and her best yet. That's because she wants her to make up her mind already, since she has tried on a dozen dresses, but she grabs another one, saying she's not satisfied yet. Resimus then says she's sure Xion would already like this one. She turns around, asking what her dress has to do with Xion. Resimus simply replies that it's obvious, since she was the one who sent the invitation. The poor girl blushes, not knowing what to say, until the maid arrives with a gift from Prince Lionel. She seems a bit confused, since it's not typical of her brother to do something like that. Meanwhile, Resimus praises it, saying that Xion will surely think it's wonderful. Time passes, and we finally arrive at the much-talked-about banquet full of nobles walking around, and our boy is leaning against the wall with his hands in his pockets and looking cool. He glances to the side and says that yes, Helen is here, which means Estelle has also arrived. Kellen confirms this and says that right now she's with Prince Lionel. However, he has something to say. Xion asks if something happened. Kellen simply says he has a bad feeling that many people will be in danger, including himself. That's because Estelle ordered him to leave the Imperial City before the banquet started, saying that some things would happen, but they would be for a greater cause. Xion wonders if Estelle was already behind the bloody banquet back then. Kellen says he fears for Xion's safety, who tells him not to worry and to leave the city. However, Kellen questions if it's really safe for him to stay there. Xion says it is and tells him to leave immediately. With that, Kellen leaves. Meanwhile, Xion thinks this whole little mess is clear. 1. Estelle was a much bigger scoundrel than he imagined. 2. As for what he'll do, he asks himself if he happens to be worried about the lives of innocents. 3. He answers not really. He just finds what that guy is doing amusing. 4. But more importantly, he would have to postpone today's assassination. At that moment, Xion activates a psychic resonance and tells Siri that her dress looks great. Wow, I agree. He then informs her that today's kill will have to wait. She asks why, and he replies that he received new information. This place is about to become a bloodbath. He can't explain because they don't have time. And for now, she should just observe what's happening. She asks if he's sure and if the source is reliable. He says he's very familiar with the person who might be behind all this, and now he's certain. But she doesn't need to worry, because maybe her disgusting fiancé will also be one of the victims. She blushes and asks how he knows he's her fiancé. He simply turns away, saying he has work to do. But then, from behind, someone calls to Siri, who turns around confused. And he sees her looking stunning, saying that he missed his teacher, Siri. She asks what he is doing there, and he tells them he came to clear his mind. But now she's worried because he will also get caught up in this mess. It's then that someone approaches, saying he sees 2 beautiful flowers before his eyes. Clearly, this is not someone Siri wants to see, apparently, who is her fiancé, the beloved Dryan Nephilis. Yes, from his smile, it's obvious he's not a good person. Meanwhile, our guy approaches Jolkin and tells him that he has a job for him. Jolkin pounds his chest, saying he's ready for it. Xion tells him to stop doing that, thinking that Jolkin is a bit too confident lately. Maybe drinking dragon's blood and all the training have turned him into a true warrior. He then tells him to go to the aqueducts and watch the area. However, Jolkin says he's scared because it's too dark, and Shion immediately takes back that comment about his confidence. Orders him to go immediately and stop making excuses, but then Jolkin tells him to look behind him. Someone extremely suspicious was watching him. Immediately, Sean moves to attack, saying that he'll take care of it. He grabs someone only for Sean to yell at him to let go. It was poor Emily, who had been crushed. Poor girl. The scene then changes to someone descending a staircase with a torch. He reaches the lowest level and announces that the time has come. Karin calls for all the servants to rise. Back at the banquet, Karin is there, angry, because someone hasn't shown up. She touches her necklace, thinking that she should have expected this from him. But that's when Yulkin introduces himself and says it's a pleasure to meet her. Arin immediately recognizes Luna Brain River. Lunab says it's an honor to be remembered by royalty. Arin smiles and says she would never forget a prodigy from the kingdom of Jiran. As the voice of the empire, she welcomes Lunab to the banquet. Lunab Rain River praises Arin's kindness and says it would be great if Sean could see how nice she is. Arin, a little confused, asks if Lunab knows Sean. Lunab Rain River says he spent some time with him yesterday. Arin gets confused, thinking about them being so close, but instead of just thinking it, she accidentally says it out loud. Lunab Rain River smiles and says it's just as he suspected. He teases that Arin is in love with Sean. Before Arin can react, someone screams. The two of them look to the side as a woman tries to alert the guards, but gets hit in the neck. The two are confused, wondering how someone could get in. Why is there an assassin inside the Imperial Palace? The masked man looks at her and says the princess has been located. The scene changes to Nana, introducing herself to Emily, who is shocked. She kneels, devastated to see that the new maid is younger and prettier. She asks if Sean is being replaced, and Sean says no, but he's more curious about why Sel brought her there. Emily says she thinks Sel wants her as his maid, because he even asked her to work for him. Obviously, Sean doesn't like hearing that. Then we see the moment when Sel asked her to be his maid. He says she seems so lonely since Sean went to the academy. But back to the present, Emily says she refused because she has to wait for her lord. He asks if she's sure and she confirms it, but he doesn't give up. After all, he brought her to this place. At that moment, Sean tells Jolkin to protect Nana and Emily, because things are about to get dangerous. He remembers that in his past life, she wasn't in this place. The fact that he sent Kellen already proves that he has been watching him for a long time, but he won't let his brother hurt his people. There's chaos outside. Suddenly, Emily shows a ribbon and says that Sel sent it as a gift for his brother. She gets nervous because she forgot to deliver it, but Nana notices something strange. Something red is seeping from the crystal inside. It seems to have a specific smell. In another part of the castle, someone sheathes a sword. That's Sel, talking to the prince, saying that everything has begun. The prince smiles, saying that the day they have been waiting for has finally arrived. He praises the knights the prince sent, and says that the recipients must have also received their gifts. The prince smiles again and says that with all this, the empire will rise from its decay. The honest brother agrees, saying that it's time to show everyone who the empire really needs. Back at the banquet, someone is telling everyone to run this way. It's Arin, urging them to evacuate and let the guards handle it. Lunable tells her to run too, but Arin says she needs to get everyone out first. Her friend says she'll go with her, and Arin thanks her. Meanwhile, the masked man is cutting down all the guards. One hears a scream, and when he looks to the side, he sees more enemies arriving. Another knight is killed, and the man doesn't know what to do until someone calls for the commander. They warn him that the area is full of mandrakes, which are high-level creatures. The problem is that this type of monster should only exist on the front lines. So what is it doing here? He despairs without a solution. One of the creatures is completely destroyed. It's Sirikwi, looking impressive and strong, telling them to evacuate. The poor commander asks if she's an instructor from the academy, not noticing that someone is approaching from behind. But from behind comes Eris, and she cuts the threat in two. She tells him to run and leave it to them. Now that's some real girl power, folks! The general tells all the knights to run and help those who are evacuating. However, the mandrakes keep attacking, and the two of them get ready. It's then that another one rushes past behind them and they realize they're being ignored. The attack is heading straight for Eren. Ciri warns that the princess is the target. Just as Eren is about to lose her head, the general saves her. He orders everyone to protect the princess. But oh, some blood splatters on her face and she starts to cry. Here comes the sadness. Oh, it's just the general, we don't care, poor guy. But Eren is upset because Captain Morris has died. She begs Morris not to die. She notices that he died with his serious expression intact. She starts blaming herself, saying that it's all her fault. Meanwhile, Luna unleashes a water blast combined with a wind blast. It creates a tsunami. Eren is impressed that a second-year student can use fusion magic. Luna says it's already too late for that guy and Eren needs to evacuate immediately. She's a little sad, but the mandrakes are approaching and it's better to run. The guards urge her to leave quickly, assuring her that they will handle it. They won't let the captain's sacrifice be in vain. Luna starts yelling at her to get a move on. Eren closes her eyes and says she will never forget their sacrifice. Suddenly, the knights are surrounded by a golden gate. Eren says she has cast a temporary barrier over everyone because of the mandrake's poison. Even a simple touch could be fatal. So this will protect them. She orders that none of them die. The men smile and thank her, but they have that look of, yeah, we're gonna die, but there they go. Charging against the mandrakes, A/here, another there. Until one of them is pierced through the chest. Everyone is thrown to the sides. She tells everyone to get back. And unleashes a freezing attack. She runs to Eren telling her she needs to leave now. However, Eren has no idea who this woman is. And she introduces herself as she is from House Verde. The mandrakes roar, but Ciri jumps, slashing everything in her path. The problem is that no one at the academy can know that she is a dagger user. If they do, they will start associating her with the Mist Group. Unfortunately, given the destruction around her, now is not the time to worry about that. She uses an attack that our boy has used before. 8 petal strikes. The mandrakes finally stop moving. But what the knight doesn't see is an assassin right behind her. Oh, wait! There's no assassin anymore. He was cut in half. Ciri tells them to stop letting their guard down. Because there are many enemies around. She just hopes that he can evacuate them all safely. But what she wants to know is what this terrifying feeling she's sensing is, running through the halls. Eren is more worried about the fact that she is Zian's sister and starts to realize she doesn't know where he is either. That's when the wall explodes and a creature appears in front of them. He finds it strange that the monsters are appearing exactly where they are. The problem is that a crawler is a high-level night monster. Eren activates a chain trap, while Luna uses a fire spear. The creature's feet get trapped, forcing it to defend against the spear. He is impressed that the two girls are far from weak. He decides he needs to show these academy students that he is also strong. The creature roars and launches a blue attack at them. Luna activates a protective barrier and he disappears behind her, but of course, before attacking, he delivers an epic line. He declares that as a knight of House Verte, he will make this creature regret everything. He activates a water blade and cuts off the creature's arm. Back in the hallway, Ciri has cleared the area. In my mind, it seems she has killed the last of them. She gets closer to take off a mask, thinking that these assassins look like monsters, but something didn't add up, and then she is surprised. These assassins are actually puppets. A long forbidden spell allows someone to control the bodies of the dead, and controlling so many requires an incredibly powerful person who has been preparing for a long time. Something of this magnitude, certainly, was not done by a single person. Maybe someone is trying to start a war, some of the assassins are taken down, and someone asks if these are the last ones. A man collapses with his sword on the ground, and 2 knights approach from behind, asking if His Majesty is okay. He tells them not to worry, as he at least has them by his side. One of them offers to help and says he will assist His Majesty. Meanwhile, the blonde one watches in silence. The despicable blonde says not to worry, as the knights will take care of the rest. The king doesn't need to worry. They will watch over him. The Watcher is finally eliminated, and he wonders where all these monsters are coming from, but suddenly, they are once again surrounded by a bunch of assassins. Back to the moment Emily delivers Celestian's gift, Julkin comments that he finds this very strange. After all, he has never sent a gift to Zian. He has always noticed that his boss harbors a kind of resentment towards his brother, something that seems much deeper than a simple sibling rivalry. But then, Carnal warns them that they need to run. Something extremely dangerous is heading their way. Emily, confused, asks why the girl's eyes are like that, and then suddenly the wall behind them explodes. He turns around and tells her to hide. Another high-level creature has appeared in that place. In another part of the castle, the rest of the guests are panicking and trying to escape. Among them is Ciri's cowardly husband, who, terrified of dying, managed to be one of the first to flee, but right at the exit, a group of assassins was waiting for him. He can't die there, no matter what, because he's eager to spend quality time with his future wife. He asks the man next to him if the back door is really safe, to which the man confirms that it is, but just as he is about to seek more confirmation, something pierces through his head. The man loses his senses in an instant. The crowd screams in terror as the man's body collapses like discarded trash. Everyone assumes this is their end. It is then that a blue boot appears, and she unleashes a blast of water. She calls for Luna, who casts a freezing spell, creating ice spikes that pierce through all the assassins. The knights stand there stunned, not knowing who these two women are. Alis steps forward confidently and introduces herself as Alis of House Verte. This girl loves to announce her name. One of the knights sees Erin and celebrates her survival. Meanwhile, Luna struggles to get up, assuring everyone that she will recover soon. At that moment, she warns that the next attack will begin at any moment and that they need to escape. The knights step forward, promising to protect the princess. The nobles behind them are begging for victory, but Erin tells them not to worry. She will give everything she has to stop the enemy. She has realized that no matter how many times they are killed, the enemies keep reappearing. It's as if they are tracking something among them. Could it be? Nothing suspicious about that necklace you're wearing, right, Erin? Back with Emily, a watcher enters the room. She begs Julkin to do something or they will die. But Julkin can't understand why high-level monsters are appearing in the Empire. Still, after being protected so many times by Zian, it's his turn to protect someone. The only problem. The 20th roars and Julkin tells it to stay away. The creature charges to attack and he manages to block with his sword. He's excited, thinking he could handle this, until he gets hit by a series of blows. Emily asks if he's sure, and he insists that he will protect them. The creature lunges to bite them both, and Julkin, seeing there's no way out, apologizes to Zian, but the 20th gets punched in the face and falls to the ground. Julkin is surprised, and Emily asks what that was. Of course, you already know, Nana is transforming again, revealing her true form. Meanwhile, in another part of the castle, the assassins continue to attack Erin. The knights are taking on some, while others handle the rest. The problem is that it doesn't seem to end, and whoever orchestrated this planned it exceptionally well. At this rate, the knights will soon start to fall. Erin realizes she needs to find another solution. It's then that one of the knights gets a cut on the face and his mask falls to the ground. She realizes they are fighting puppets or the dead controlled by magic. She starts to think about the most efficient way to deal with dark magic. The first thing that comes to her mind is the sacred magic of the Threshold Light. She knows there's only one way to do it. She calls to Erin and asks him to come. Bless his sword with light magic. Erin hesitates, explaining that this would remove the protection from the knights. The knights tell her not to worry. They will hold the line for as long as possible. As long as possible probably means they will die as soon as she removes the magic. But oh well. Now his sword shines brightly with the blessing. Combining elements like she did with Lunap was a challenge, but combining magic with a spiritual art is much easier. It takes her time, but she finally prepares to give it her all with this blow. Meanwhile, I wonder where Zian is. He'd better be doing something really important. And there he is, taking out puppets and mandrakes, our beloved Zian. He knows all of this is related to Excel somehow. He's convinced that Boris has started working under Excel's influence. Kieran comments that he never thought humans still existed with this level of necromancy. Zian explains that the person who enjoys this type of magic also likes another method, using fortified creature stones to create new monsters. Kieran mentions feeling that magic emanating from a certain direction. Zian notices the place is a bloody mess, but before dealing with it, he needs a change of clothes. Meanwhile, he is channeling immense power. Luna recognizes it as the spirit of Marion. She's baffled as to how he summoned it. Magic and spiritual power are extremely unstable. She warns him that he must stop or his body won't withstand it. Marion places her hand on his head and asks him why he is in such a hurry, commenting that it's a shame that a girl blessed by Pruna faces such a cruel fate. She readies her arms and declares that she is extremely irritated. With a single gesture, she creates an explosion, forcing everyone to fall back. Eren is amazed by the immense power in such a simple move. The problem is that as the assassins are eliminated, others are reanimated. Eren begs her to stop before she ends up dying alone, but she knows she must finish this before things get worse. She decides to make the most of the spirit summoning, preparing for an attack using all the power of the Spirit King, but suddenly, someone grabs her arm. The goddess stops for a moment, leaving Ellis confused. No one knew who that person was. Who could this mysterious figure be? He wonders who this completely different puppet could be and has no idea what this black mist surrounding it is. The problem is that he can't move, not even pull his hand away. Zian remains still as his aura envelops her. The goddess then tells him that it's time to say goodbye. It seems her journey won't end today. Zian lets go of Ellis's arm and she collapses to the ground, trying to understand what kind of mist this is. As the goddess fades away, she tells Ellis to remember that she will always be welcome in Pruna. Eren is still confused, and Luna comments that the figure blocked the manifestation of Ellis's spirit. The assassins begin to advance again. Poor Ellis, now unable to defend herself. But don't worry, there's a cool-headed man ready to take care of everything. Now, Eren realizes that the man in front of them is not an enemy. Zian continues to eliminate enemies until he pauses for a second. Just as he suspected, the creatures seem to be following the trail of something coming from the princess. He asks Kieran if he feels anything unusual in the area. Kieran mentions feeling something magical coming from Luna. Zian asks for something more, and finally, Kieran says there's energy from a magical creature emanating from the princess's necklace. He tells him that he'll need his help. As he moves forward, Zian strikes the ground, creating a spatial distortion. A domain of mist begins to spread outward. The puppets begin to disintegrate into smoke, and the knights become alarmed as the space around them changes. As the creatures try to advance, they get trapped in the ground and seem to die. Ellis notices that the mist is consuming the puppets in a matter of moments. Then, the entire area falls silent, as if nothing had happened. Eren is bewildered by how someone can handle so many creatures at once. It's then that she notices Luna on the ground. Just as she considers helping her, Zian appears behind her. Everyone turns towards the princess, but she already has a knife to her neck. Karen feels a strange familiarity with this mysterious figure. He hits the necklace, risky given its location on her neck. Everyone shouts for the princess. But suddenly he disappears, reappearing next to Luna, and she panics, orders him to back away, and launches a ray of light. The attack hits him directly, but he simply turns into mist. Zian then leaves a message telling everyone not to worry because he has no bad intentions. He assures them that the creatures will no longer follow anyone else since the jewel has been destroyed. He tells them to go to the main entrance, which he has already cleared. A knight approaches Eren, asking if she is unharmed. She is more focused on finding out who that person was, but she reassures him saying she is fine, then asks about Elle and Luna. Both are getting up, and Elle suggests they hurry to the entrance. She decides to find out who the stranger was later. For now, the priority is to save the girls. However, Luna, with her magical sensitivity, seems to recognize the man. Back with Nana, the Vizhimas lies defeated on the ground. Emily is trembling, questioning if Nana could really be a maid. Julkan admits that he has no idea, since Nana had never done anything like this before. She had not only killed the creature, but was also devouring it. In Sion's past life, there were rumors about the true purpose of the banquet. Many believed it was orchestrated by Princess Arim, desperate to inherit the throne, but now Sion understands that the necklace Sel gave her was part of a grand scheme along with the prince. He eliminated the creatures and was acclaimed as a hero of the empire. In the end, they were the ones who benefited most from this incident. Kieran asks if Sion is suggesting that those two planned everything. Two, sacrificing so many lives for something like that makes him think that humans are worse than demons. 2. Sion responds that this is just the beginning. He adds that he is not very different, as he participated in numerous massacres in his past life. 3. Kieran then asks if he is leaving already. He says yes, since Nana must be waiting for him. The Imperial Knights, they should be able to handle the rest. Kieran mentions something that has been bothering her. Our boy asks what it is. She says that the scent of the princess's necklace matches the one Emily brought back to the room. Nana comments on a delicious scent coming from Emily. Emily panics, insisting she's not as tasty as she smells. Meanwhile, Jolkin can't understand why Nana has suddenly turned into a monster. Worse yet, she's trying to kill Emily for some unknown reason. Emily needs to stop her somehow, but she can't bring herself to raise her sword against her. Nana lunges, screaming that she can't control herself. Jules closes his eyes, unable to find a solution. Sion steps in and takes a blow to the back. Kieran slips in behind Emily, and Sion tells him to resolve the situation quickly. Kieran rips off the necklace and throws it to the ground before Emily can react. Kieran smashes it with his foot. Kira orders Nana to wake up and come back to her senses, reminding her that her master is there. Slowly, Nana returns to her normal form, confused about what just happened. To happen, she sees the destruction on the boy's back and asks if she caused it. Zian reassures her, saying that he's fine, it doesn't hurt, and it wasn't her fault. However, she collapses to the ground crying, saying she didn't want to do this. Jolkin and Emily are speechless, while Sion simply tells them they should leave, since the place is in chaos. Meanwhile, Prince Severus wonders what's going on. The hallways were supposed to be filled with monsters, but there's no sign of them. The king comments that the creatures have disappeared, and Severus celebrates, saying they are incredibly lucky. However, Isel has already noticed that something is wrong. That's when they hear someone calling for their father. It's Aaron and her group emerging safely. From Severus's clenched jaw, it's clear he's not happy. Irene hugs her father, expressing her relief that he's safe. Then she notices her brother Lawinel standing nearby. The king explains that it's thanks to Lawinel and Isel that they were able to stay safe. Severus comments that it's good to know Aaron didn't die. Aaron replies that she feels the same way, though she has many questions for him. She knows this isn't the time. The knights approach to protect Aaron and pay their respects to the king, who thanks them for safeguarding his daughter. Aaron looks over, noticing him whispering something to Severus. She knows they're planning something. Suddenly, Severus turns around and places a sword at the neck of Luna. He declares that he is sure who is behind all of this. It must be the granddaughter of the Grand Master of the Sorcery Academy. He announces that from now on, she is under arrest. Isel is bewildered, unable to understand what the prince is thinking. While Isel remains silent, the king and Aaron order Severus to lower his sword, demanding to know what he is doing. But the prince argues that the situation is clear. The kingdom of Garen orchestrated this to bring down Usip. He claims that Luna was sent to create chaos and assassinate Marquis Luna. He asks what proof he has to back up such accusations. Essel suddenly mentions having felt strange magic near their location yesterday. The king asks if this is true and demands an explanation. Severus declares that they invited her in good faith, but they have always kept an eye on her, and with the evidence they have, it was only a matter of time before the truth came out. The king acknowledges this and tells them to handle it. Severus assures him they will. Poor Luna realizes she has fallen into a trap. She wonders if this was part of her grandfather's plan. Luna and the others from the Grand Academy are arrested. Meanwhile, Resimus, who had been separated from the group during the battle, is with the noble knights. The next day, A funeral is held in the capital for everyone who died in the massacre. Although the number of deaths has been significantly reduced compared to her past life, the day is still remembered as the Bloody Banquet. Sometime later, Isol is applying bandages to Zian. Zian tells Isol that she doesn't need to do it, but she insists, saying it's the least she can do. She expresses relief that he managed to escape the monsters, that they were incredibly dangerous, also mentioning that if it hadn't been for that man, she wouldn't have survived either. However, she's curious about who he was, commenting that the man was the exact same size as Zian. What a coincidence. Then, she comments that she's noticed his physique has improved significantly, and from his wounds, it's clear he's been training hard. Zian turns away uncomfortably, admitting it, and she teases him, asking why he's blushing. Zian runs off, telling her to stop bothering him. At that moment, Isol appears, commenting that the two are as close as ever. He asks if Zian is okay, who replies that he is, and thanks him for his concern. Isol notices that Zian seems to be preparing for something. Zian then asks Isol about the progress of the investigation at the scene. He wonders if Zian has also noticed the unsettling nature of Cell, which gives him the chills. The blonde man explains that he's there precisely for the investigation. They found a bracelet in Lunap's room, which contained one of the stones that attracted the creatures. Lunap had claimed it was a gift. Zian comments that if that's the case, they should focus on tracking down the suspect. Essel agrees and asks if Zian received any gifts himself. Zian says he doesn't remember receiving anything and asks if they've identified who gave the bracelet to Luna. Isol reveals that they believe it was a merchant who frequented the palace, but the merchant was found dead that same day. That's why they're working tirelessly to uncover the truth. Isol presses Zian again, asking if he's absolutely sure he didn't receive anything. Zian knows this isn't a genuine investigation, they're just looking for someone to blame. Elsewhere, Emily is sitting on a bench when a man approaches her. Zian knows she's in danger. Back in the room, someone complains of a headache. It's Zian. He insists to them that he hasn't fully recovered and needs to rest. She tells Isol that Zian has a wound on his back and is losing a lot of blood, so he should go to the infirmary. Isol agrees and apologizes, but Zian states again that he has no memory of receiving anything. After all, anyone who tried to get close to him wouldn't have survived the massacre. Essel thanks him for the answer, thinking to himself that he's lucky the girl didn't hand over the item. At least it saves him the trouble of eliminating another person. However, at the same time, it frustrates him because Zian was supposed to die at the banquet. Alice suddenly calls our boy Zian and gives him another slap on the back, ordering him to lie down. But then we see blood dripping to the floor, and a maiden asks why he's doing this. She says she did everything he asked, delivering the necklace to the princess. She pleads, swearing she won't tell anyone about this. The man replies that's why her role ends here, and now he must complete his task to finish what has been started. After all this preparation only fills him with anger. He makes a clean cut and tells her to rest in peace. He pauses, realizing he forgot something. Opening his grimoire, he mutters that he really needs to learn how to deal with bodies. Two creatures with countless eyes emerge, which he orders to devour the remains. It seems someone borrowed a power straight from a suspicious librarian's book. Back with Emily, a man approaches and she looks behind her. Oh, relax, it's Julkin, or rather Brian, bringing her some apples. These people really know how to build suspense. He sits down, commenting on how nice the weather is, but Emily wants to know how much longer they will stay there. Brian replies that they will stay until they are ordered to return. Oh, this is the moment when Emily delivered that guy's gift. The moment Sean saw it, he instantly knew what it was, destroyed it, and told Emily to listen carefully. Neither the Imperial City nor House Verte would be safe for her ever again. She had to hide until she was given new instructions. He called Brian, explaining that he was extremely busy and he would need him to protect Emily and, of course, to also take care of Nana. He told them they would have to stay separated for a while. Now, only after all this, we finally find out that his name isn't Julkin, but Brian. Brian is worried, noting that he's never seen Sean smile like that. Yes, Emily asks if Nana is okay, and Brian explains that she's having trouble sleeping. But she seems to be recovering. Emily reflects on everything that has happened since Sean came to this place. It's impressive to think that her maid has dragon's blood, but this only makes her want to help Sean even more. Brian agrees, mentioning that he's been thinking the same thing, although he's distracted, remembering the moment she grabbed his arm. He's embarrassed, wondering why that moment is stuck in his mind. Emily declares that together they will do their best for Sean. Brian blushes and smiles, nodding. The scene shifts to Severus questioning his father. He demands to know what he means by this decision. Severus insists that the evidence is undeniable and that they can't let the suspects escape. However, the king calmly tells him to relax, explaining that the decision has already been made. Severus accuses him of being weak, saying he will never maintain dominance over the continent with that approach. Almost getting a smack on the head, the king firmly orders him to be silent. The king acknowledges that Severus's ambitions to dominate the continent are noble in theory, but reminds him that the Joseph Empire not only borders the kingdom of Jiran, but also the demon world, Spain, and Prona. Starting a war with Jiran would leave them vulnerable on all fronts, even if by some miracle they conquered the continent. The cost in lives would be astronomical. As emperor, he refuses to choose such a monstrous path. Severus, however, persists, claiming that there is clear evidence. The king asks if he's referring to the darkening stone, which takes Severus by surprise, as he didn't expect the king to know about it. The king comments that his expression says it all. Since he was a child, Severus has never known when to stop when he doesn't get what he wants. Severus, trembling, denies knowing anything. The king orders him to shut up, questioning how he has fallen so low. He declares that at this moment, Arryn is much more qualified for the throne than Severus. She finally orders Severus to remove himself from her presence immediately. Obviously, Severus doesn't take hearing Arryn's name well. For him, that darn girl is ruining everything. Outside Arryn's room, someone asks what the prince is doing there. The door opens and Resimus comes out, explaining that the princess is still recovering. But Severus responds by hitting her in the face, knocking her to the ground. She confronts him, demanding to know the meaning of this, while he laughs manically like the Joker. Staring at him, she calmly asks him if he's there to see her, or if there's something else he wants to hear from her. Severus is suddenly surprised. Her aura is different, she doesn't seem like the same person he knew. Arryn then declares that maybe he wants to hear that she, Arryn, received nothing from her brother. Severus the prince trembles, realizing that she knows everything. The scene changes to the king asking Arryn if she's sure she knows nothing about the matter. She confirms. The king explains that the necklace she was wearing was no ordinary jewel. The stone inside it, though rare, comes from a clan of dark magic users. It's something used to attract and control creatures. He has received news from the Imperial City that someone bought this item in secret. The known suspects are the merchant Gilbert and the maid Marilda. However, both are either dead or missing. The king found it strange that both the merchant Gilbert and the maid Marilda had frequent meetings with Severus. He asks Arryn again if she's sure she didn't receive anything from her brother. Fiddling with her fingers, she replies calmly, no, she received nothing from Severus. However, she comments that now that they have found the source of these stones, Luna should be freed. She asks her father to release the girl who saved countless lives at the banquet. The king agrees and tells her she no longer needs to worry about it. Arryn knows that if she reveals Severus was the one behind the necklace, the lives of those around her will become much more dangerous. The king might not execute Severus, which means he would remain alive and able to harm those close to her, and she's tired of standing by while the people she cares about suffer. Back to the present, she asks Severus if he's satisfied with this outcome. He arrogantly replies that yes, he is. Just as she said, he never gave her anything. Arryn affirms this, saying that's exactly what she told her father. Severus then questions her tone and suggests that if someone heard her, they might think she's done something wrong. Sarcastically, he suggests they sew her friend's mouth shut. Arryn simply replies that it's unfortunate for him, but that she has a visitor now. Severus asks if this person is really that important, and she replies, yes, more important than you. Then Xian enters, who apologizes for having overheard the conversation. Xian. Surprised, Severus hadn't sensed him at all and wonders why he's there. Zian, with his typical carefree demeanor, says he heard everything. 1. Severus demands to know how long he's been spying. 2. Zian nonchalantly replies that he doesn't have much of a presence, so he's been there the whole time. 3. Severus bursts out, saying he's in no mood for games and calling Zian bold for speaking to a prince that way. But Zian just calmly asks, "So what are you going to do about it? Are you planning to silence me too?" Severus starts to wonder if the rumors about these two being engaged are true, but sensing the tension, he quickly changes his tune. He knows there's nothing to gain by making an enemy of Zian. Verte is not only the daughter of his father's ally, but she also has Excel's favor. In a previous conversation with Excel, Severus had explained that he wanted to eliminate Aaron because she threatened his position on the throne. What he couldn't understand was why Excel wanted to deal with his own brother, given their father's unwavering support for Excel. Excel replied, "Severus, it's chillingly simple, because he annoys me." Severus was convinced that Zian held secrets beyond human comprehension. Back in the present, Severus remarks that he now understands what Excel meant. Zian doesn't know why, but an immensely powerful aura emanates from this boy. Changing his expression, Severus raises his hands and says it was all a misunderstanding. Now that the confusion has been cleared up, he will take his leave. Zian relaxes a bit, noting that Severus isn't completely corrupted yet. 1, he recalls how in the future, Severus would be known as the Mad Emperor, committing acts that would terrify anyone. 2, as he leaves, Severus even apologizes to Resimus, who forgives him. 3, Arin only asking him to be more careful in the future. Finally, the door closes. Aaron curses her damn brother and thanks Zian. But Zian says it was Aaron who handled everything. She smiles and says she only acted confidently because she knew he was nearby. Zian sits down, saying he's just tired of standing. 5, Aaron nervously adjusts her hair, muttering that it's fine if that's the case. 6, Resimus, bewildered, realizes that Zian doesn't get the obvious while praising him for how calm he was in front of the prince. 7, Zian starts to leave, saying that now that Severus knows they are allies, Aaron won't face as many risks. Resimus says goodbye to him, realizing he only came on business and has already left. The scene shifts to Severus, questioning Excel about what they'll do next. Severus swears the plan was perfect, but the people they wanted dead are still alive. Worse yet, he has completely lost his father's trust, and he was supposed to be the holy savior of the empire. A voice interrupts, saying the plan wasn't a total failure. It's Boris, reporting for duty. He apologizes for the delay, explaining that he was carrying out a mission for Lord Sele. Severus mentions having heard that Emily has gone into hiding and asks about this fruit matter she was referring to. Boris admits that they underestimated the people surrounding Princess Erin. Severus, furious, accuses Boris of insinuating that they should reflect on their actions. Boris apologizes and clarifies. Showing a crystal, he explains that it contains the magic used by the allies of Erin. Most of it is ordinary, but then a dark mist begins to emanate from the crystal. Boris declares that this is an extremely rare and potentially dangerous magic. The magic is dangerous. Some would even call it dark magic. It is the power of a cursed magic blade. Severus is surprised to learn that one of Aaron's allies wields something so blasphemous. Meanwhile, we cut to a comedic scene of Yolkin looking at a blue creature on a plate. He asks Emily what kind of gratin she said she was making. The strangest thing is that Sean and Nana are eating it calmly. Emily, cheerful, tells them to take it easy. Yolkin, however, wonders if the food is actually moving. Sean comments that he has already eaten enough and that he is full. He apologizes, explaining that he must leave before Cell discovers this place. He only came to see the 3 of them, but the danger is still too great. Sean explains that he has placed people to watch over the surroundings of the house, making it the safest place for now. He laughs, but Emily asks him to promise that he will return. He reassures her, assuring her not to worry, and instructs Brian to take care of the 2 of them while he is away. Brian, unenthusiastic about the strange food they have been eating, mutters that he will take care of them well. Outside the house, Siri appears, who comments sarcastically about his free time to stroll around. She demands an explanation. The bloody banquet, the death of her fiancé. How did you know that all of this would happen? She warns him to be careful with his answers, as she might end up becoming his enemy. She asks again, "Who exactly are you?" Sean simply replies, "Why does it matter?" The Marquis was already a target. Siri replies that it matters a lot, as he could be a spy from another organization. Sean asks what she plans to do if that is the case. She unsheathes her sword, declaring, "The answer is obvious." She lunges at him, but Kieran intercepts the attack. Siri demands to know if Kieran will regularly get in her way. Kieran reminds her of the last time they fought, warning her that he will not allow anyone to touch his master. The two of them immediately rekindle their rivalry, vowing to defeat each other. Kieran conjures a red energy sphere, saying he will show her something interesting. Siri, excited, prepares herself, saying she is ready. Kieran unleashes the relentless black mist that seems to pursue Siri. Siri dismisses it as useless, boasting that she can dodge anything, but the sheer explosion shakes her confidence. She realizes that being hit by that would mean instant death. She admits it's better for Kieran to remain in his sword form, as he could be much more deadly otherwise. Kieran smirks, declaring that the warm-up is over and it's time to get serious. Siri, who smiles back, ready for an all-out fight before things escalate further. Zian activates sword manipulation, throwing Kieran to the ground. Kieran complains, asking to continue the fun, but Zian orders them both to stop. He reminds them that their ruckus contradicts the purpose of their hideout. Siri, who admits he's right and suggests moving to another location, Zian tells them to clean up and closes the door, leaving them both with stunned expressions. Inside, Zian announces a change of plans, instructing everyone to prepare to leave. That's when a voice greets him. It's Luna. She comments that it seems his family has grown since the last time. Zian, surprised that she broke through the fog barrier, asks how she found them. Luna explains that it's just a simple talent of hers and assures him that no one else knows she's there. She asks about the commotion outside, but Zian downplays it, asking why she's there. Luna replies that she came to thank him. Zian shrugs, saying he didn't do anything worth thanking him for, but Luna insists she knows everything from the day he entered her. Everyone looks confused, trying to decipher her words. She clarifies that she's talking about the aura that invaded her when she was unconscious. She demonstrates her ability to summon fire and water, combine them, and modify them. She can even use a form of magic to locate specific people. Proudly, she asks if he doesn't think this gift from her grandfather is amazing. Zian replies dryly that it seems more like a curse, pointing to her injured body. 1. Luna blushes and accuses him of being the one who entered. 2. Zian ignores her and tells everyone to get ready to leave, saying he'll have a talk with her. 3. Emily excitedly asks where they're going, and Zian replies to the Reuben Academy. Emily smiles enthusiastically, saying she'll now be able to take care of him daily. Brian, however, looks disappointed, already dreading the food he'll have to endure later. Luna reflects on her childhood in cold, dark places, being the subject of painful experiments. She endured it all, believing it was her duty as a grandchild of the Rain River family. She asks if Zian feels a similar sense of duty. He bluntly replies that he doesn't. Curious, she questions why he saved everyone but didn't want anyone to know. Zian explains that it would just cause more headaches, something she probably understands. Luna pauses and says she gets it, then reveals that when their auras connected, she discovered his magical attribute. At first, she thought it was darkness, but now she's not sure. She confesses that during their brief contact at the restaurant, she gathered information about him. Zian is surprised, not realizing she could deduce someone's magical attribute through contact. She claims that on the day she collapsed, he implanted his magic in her. Luna demands to know what it is, sure that it's not of this world. Sean acknowledges her curiosity and asks if she plans to report it to her grandfather. Luna dispels her magic, saying no, it would only bring more trouble. Sean smiles wryly, asking if she is rebelling against Ryan River. Luna enigmatically replies that he probably understands her reasons. Luna suddenly hugs him, thanking him for freeing her from a burden she had carried for a long time. Luna explains that her body is like a cauldron of flames, full of magical attributes that constantly clash and mix. However, someone had placed a kind of lid on her magic. The intention was to prevent her from losing her magic completely, but it was also causing her power to heat up excessively. What was overflowing from this cauldron was slowly extinguishing the flame of her life. All Sean did was create a hole in that lid. He explains that he did it because he didn't want her to live as someone else's puppet. Still, he tells her she doesn't need to thank him if she has nothing else to say. She can leave and keep her secret. But of course, she shouldn't overexert herself. It would be dangerous. Luna simply thinks to herself how adorable Sean is. As she suspected, Sean is a genuinely good person. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the War Magic Academy, her grandfather slams the table, demanding to know what they are saying. The butler informs him that Luna has been exonerated and released. He asks if they should file a petition against the kingdom of Yusife. The grandfather responds with a resounding no, saying that's not the problem. Instead, he wants to know how she dared to stop somewhere else before returning to him. He declares that they must find her, while muttering words like this video to help the creator continue making content like this. I hope you like this incredible work. I'll bring more soon. Until the next video, guys, take care. Looking around, he realizes that everything is chaotic. It's because Emily is clinging to him with too much force. So much force